This is the last game, by the way. After this, I'm going back to putting the news in the bag. Unk is putting the news in the bag after this game, so don't worry.
We've lost a third of our friendly sector. Enemy sabotage kit spotted.
He's in here. Let's go! Third kill, baby! That was almost a double. That's close. The kid's popping off. Who is this guy? He's a god gamer. Polished off the rust. Yep, that's right. Tactical. Yo, I'm basically a pro. Jinxie has to review my tapes now. Jinxie has to review my tapes and talk about how good I am. I don't even know if I'm going to the right place, but I'm gonna attack this thing.
Mission failed.
No!
Our base has been captured.
Ah, well earned. A defeat that we fought hard for, but we still lost. Also, not the worst player on the team. All right, everybody, that concludes the gaming portion for now for the broadcast. We are now officially ready to put the news in the bag. Unk is back. Oh my Lord, holy moly. Okay, all right. Let's get it twisted. Okay, Friday start. I mean, not Friday. Today's not even Friday. What am I talking about? Is it? I want to shout out to Rainbow Six Siege. You can, like I've said, you can get it. You can play the beta. It feels like a Friday to me, and partially because I wasn't the worst player. I wasn't the worst player. Okay, I was not the worst player. I want everybody to recognize that I was not the worst player. That's important. Do we have the Themasius playlist locked and loaded, ready to go? Because it's time to go back to the diamond ranked. We're going to talk about Ukraine, Russia. Wear headphones, please. I'm begging you. Shut up, Megaphonics. I'm not going to do that. All right. Breaking news. Trump meets with NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte in the Oval Office. We'll get started. I'll blast off again as well. And we'll put the news in the bag.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be with a friend of mine who was Prime Minister of the Netherlands. I got to know him very well. We had a great relationship always. Mark Rutte. Now he's Secretary General of NATO and doing a fantastic job. Everybody, every report I've gotten is what a great job he did, and I'm not at all surprised when I hear it. We had to support him, and we supported him as soon as I heard the name. But he was a fantastic Prime Minister, and he's doing a fantastic job. An even tougher job. Which is tougher, being the Prime Minister of Netherlands or?
This job is quite tough.
I would think this is a little
but Dutch politics is also brutal. So.
Yeah, but this is pretty tough. But you're doing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's news time.
We're going to
now.
be
I got 3
discussing a lot of
kills.
things.
That's the
Obviously,
news.
We'll be discussing what's happening with respect to Ukraine and Russia. At this moment, we have people talking in Russia. We have representatives over there, Steve Witkoff and others.
Goatkov is in Russia.
In very serious discussions. As you know, Ukraine
I'll put the
has
content tag
agreed,
back on as
subject
well.
to
Don't
this,
worry.
What's happening
The politics
today to
tag.
a complete ceasefire, and we hope Russia will do the same. Thousands of people are being killed, young people, usually, mostly young people. We were just talking about it. Thousands of young people are being killed a week, and we want to see that stop. And they're not Americans, and they're not from the Netherlands for the most part. No. They're from Russia, and they're from Ukraine, but they're people. And I think everybody feels the same way. We want it to stop. It's also a tremendous cost to the United States and to other countries. And it's something that would have never happened if I were president, and it makes me very angry to see that it did happen. But it happened, and we have to stop it. And Mark has done some really good work over the last week. We've been working together, and he's done some really good work, so I'm very happy about that. We'll also be talking about trade and various other things, and I think we'll have a very, very strong day. We're going to have lunch afterwards. That'll go, and then we'll see you all later. But Mark, would you like to say something?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much, Mr. President, dear Donald, again for hosting me, and but also for taking time in Florida. A couple of weeks after you were re-elected.
That's right.
And of course our phone call a couple of weeks ago, and I must say, Trump 45, you originated the fact that in Europe we are now spending, when you take it to aggregate, 700 billion more on defense than when you came in office in 2016, 2017. But that was Trump 45. But when you look at Trump 47,
It'll be hard to tell.
what happened the last couple of weeks is really staggering. The Europeans committing to a package of 800 billion defense spending. The Germans now, potentially up to $500 billion extra in defense spending. And then of course you had Keir Starmer here, the British Prime Minister and others, all committing to much higher defense spending. We're not there. We need to do more, but I really want to work together with you in a run-up to the Hague Summit to make sure that we will have a NATO which is really reinvigorated under your leadership, and we are getting there. We also discuss defense production because we need to produce more weaponry. We are not doing enough. And not in the US, not in Europe, and we are lacking behind when you compare to the Russians and the Chinese. And you have a huge defense industrial base. Europeans buying 4 times more here than the other way around, which is good because you have a strong defense industry, but we need to do more there to make sure that we ramp up the production and kill the red tape. So I would love to work with you on that. And finally, Ukraine. You broke the deadlock. As you said, all the killing, the young people dying, cities getting destroyed. The fact that you did that you started the dialogue with the Russians, and the successful talks in Saudi Arabia now with the Ukrainians. I really want to commend you for this. So, The Hague is my hometown. I love to host you there in the summer and work together to make sure that will be a splash, a real success, projecting American power on the world stage.
What Mark is saying is when I first went to NATO, my first meeting, I noticed that very few people were paying. And if they weren't paying their fair share. There were only 7 countries that were paying what they were supposed to be paying, which was... Yeah,
it's even worse.
Could be even worse. But there were just very few countries that were paying, and even the paying, it was at 2%, which is too low. It should be higher. It should be quite a bit higher. But you had Poland, and I remember Poland was actually paying a little bit more than they were supposed to, which I was very impressed with. And they've been actually terrific, and some of the others. But most of them weren't paying, or they were paying very little. And I didn't think it was appropriate to bring it up there, but I said it's going to be brought up at my next meeting. And my next meeting, the first meeting, you want to give them a little break. The second meeting, it began, and I was able to raise hundreds of billions of dollars. I just said, we're not going to be involved with you if you're not going to pay. And the money started pouring in, and NATO became much stronger because of my actions and working along with a lot of people, including Mark. But they would not pay for other presidents, and I don't think other presidents even knew that they weren't paid. I asked, first question, has everybody paid up? And literally, I mean, they told me 7. You could be right, it could be 3, but that makes it even worse. But they just weren't paying. And I said, no, I won't protect if you're not paying. If you're delinquent or if the money isn't paid, why would we do that? And as soon as I said that, got a little hit from the press because they said, oh, gee, that's not very nice. But if you said the other, nobody would have paid. And the money started coming in by the billions. And, hundreds of billions of dollars flowed into NATO, and NATO became strong. Yeah. And you remember that. Your predecessor, who I thought was a very good man.
Absolutely, Jens Stoltenberg. He sends his best greetings.
He was terrific. Stoltenberg, Secretary General. And he made the statement that when Trump came in, the money started coming in like we never saw before. Hundreds of billions, actually probably close to $600 billion came in, and NATO became strong from that standpoint. And now we have to use it wisely, and we have to get this war over with, and you'll be back to a normal, much more normal life. And maybe we're close. We're getting words that things are going okay in Russia, and it doesn't mean anything until we hear what the final outcome is. But they have very serious discussions going on right now with President Putin and others. And hopefully they all want to end this nightmare. It's a nightmare. It's a horrible thing when you look. I get pictures every week. They give me the pictures of the battlefield, which I almost don't want to see. It's so horrible to see young people laying arms and legs and heads laying all over the field. It's the most terrible thing that you'll ever see. And it's got to stop. These are young people with mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers and friends, and it's got to stop. So we hopefully are going to be in a good position sometime today to have a good idea. We'll have we know where we are with Ukraine, and we are getting good signals outside of Russia as to where we are with Russia. And hopefully they'll do the right thing. It's really humanity. We're talking about humanity. We're not talking about the money. But then you add the money to it, and hundreds of billions of dollars is being spent and really wasted so unnecessarily. It should have never happened. So it's an honor to have you here. They picked a great gentleman. I'll tell you, I was so happy to hear, because you had somebody. Stoltenberg was really good, and you have somebody that's going to do an incredible job. And I was so much in favor of you. You have no idea. They had another person that I did not like. I was not happy. And I think I kept him from, you know what I'm talking about. I said, this is the right man to do it. And he really did. He was a great prime minister of the Netherlands. He did a great job. And that's what he's doing right now. So thank you, everybody, for being here. And it's a very great honor to have you. And we even have some of our great energy people here today, right? We have the governor, and we have Chris, you know Chris, right? He's supposed to be the most talented man in the world of energy, according to the governor. So I don't know if he's right. And we have General, you've been fantastic. Thank you very much. And we have a lot of good people that won't be so much involved with this, but they wanted to see what was happening. It's become a little bit of a show, but they wanted to see what was happening, and I think a lot of good things are happening. So with that, if anybody would have a question.
Witkoff's trip to Moscow, you spoke about it. What sort of agreement do you hope he comes away from there with?
Well, we'd like to see a ceasefire from Russia, and we have, not been working in the dark. We've been discussing with Ukraine land and pieces of land that would be kept and lost, and all of the other elements of a final agreement. There's a power plant involved, a very big power plant involved. Who's going to get the power plant, and who's going to get this and that? And so, it's not an easy process. But phase one is the ceasefire. A lot of the individual subjects have been discussed, though. We've been discussing concepts of land because you don't want to waste time with a ceasefire if it's not going to mean anything. So we're saying, look, this is what you can get, this is what you can't get. They discussed NATO and being in NATO, and everybody knows what the answer to that is. They've known that answer for 40 years, in all fairness. So a lot of the details of a final agreement have actually been discussed. Now we're going to see whether or not Russia's there, and if they're not, it'll be a very disappointing moment for the world. Yeah.
But he does still have some concerns. He suggested that you two should speak directly. Do you have plans to speak to him soon? If so,
he did say that today. It was a very promising statement because other people are saying different things, and you don't know if they have anything to really, if they have any meaning, or I don't know. I think some of them were making statements. I don't think they have anything to do with it. No, he put out a very promising statement, but it wasn't complete. And yeah, I'd love to meet with him or talk to him. But we have to get it over with fast. Every day people are being killed. It's not like, as we sit here, 2 people will be killed. Think of it. 2 people are going to be killed during this little period of time. Thousands of people a week are dying. So we really don't have very much time. We have to make this fast. It shouldn't be very complicated.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes.
A representative of Canada, the finance minister, are in town and will meet members of your administration during the day. Any chances that you will ban on the tariffs on aluminum and the ones that are planned for April 2nd?
No.
You are not going to change your
No,
mind?
not. Look, we've been ripped off for years, and we're not going to be ripped off anymore. No, I'm not going to bend at all. Aluminum or steel or cars. We're not going to bend. We've been ripped off as a country for many, many years. We've been subjected to costs that we shouldn't be subjected to. In the case of Canada, we're spending $200 billion a year to subsidize Canada. I love Canada. I love the people of Canada. I have many friends in Canada. The great one, Wayne Gretzky, the great. Hey, how good is Wayne Gretzky? He's the great one. But we have, I know many people from Canada that are good friends of mine. But,
Classic.
the United States can't subsidize a country
Wayne Gretzky,
to $200 billion
he's a good guy.
a year. We don't need
Love him.
their cars. We don't need their energy. We don't need their lumber. We don't need anything that they give. We do it because we want to be helpful, but it comes a point when you just can't do that. You have to run your own country. And to be honest with you, Canada only works as a state. It doesn't. We don't need anything they have. As a state, it would be one of the great states anyway. This would be the most incredible country visually. If you look at a map, they drew an artificial line right through it between Canada and the U.S. Just a straight artificial line. Somebody did it a long time ago, many, many decades ago, and it makes no sense. It's so perfect as a great and cherished state. Keeping "O Canada," the national anthem. I love it. I think it's great. Keep it. But it'll be for the state, one of our greatest states. Maybe our greatest state. but why should we subsidize another country for $200 billion? It costs us $200 billion a year. And again, we don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We have more than they do. We don't need anything. We don't need their cars. I'd much rather make the cars here. And there's not a thing that we need. Now, there'll be a little disruption, but it won't be very long. But they need us. We really don't need them. And we have to do this. I'm sorry. We have to do this. Yes.
You have made it very clear that NATO needs to step up, although great progress has been made in your first mandate. How do you envision this new transatlantic?
Are you talking about NATO stepping up? Well, NATO is stepping up through this man. This man is a man that only knows how to step up. And we have the same goal in mind. We want the war ended, and he's doing his job. He only knows how to.
I like that this Yeet account, by the way, has become so goddamn unimaginably horny with its true purpose that it's basically just like revealing its hand. I saw this like Asmongold says Hassan seems schizo when he blames everything on Destiny and admits something crazy in the process. I go on Destiny subreddit too, part of the Illuminati for him. This motherfucker is only posting about Ethan Klein, myself, and people in Ethan Klein's crosshairs, okay? Literally look at this. Like with the one exception, Hassan has been farming that sponsorship money this week, with 2 being in the last 5 days. That's such a, like, how is this? What is this man doing? Look at this. Ethan took time out tonight to call on IG to call out Matt Lieb, who was a role on Good Mythical Morning with Rhett and Link. Asmongold denied Hassan's request to speak about Mahmoud Khalil. Here's his first attempt. Just a farm, dude. Look at this. How the fuck do people not realize this is just like a farming operation? I mean, I guess people are just also horny to hate. Brother, if you want to do a better farm job, you have to spread it out. You can't exclusively and entirely focus on people that Ethan Klein is targeting and then also put in like irrelevant random shit. You got to, every now and then you got to pepper in some, real fails or whatever. You know what I mean? You can't just be posting about like every random shit that happens, every random thing that happens on my broadcast. Amazing. Why are you giving tips? Let the motherfucker fuck it up. It doesn't matter. There's no stopping these accounts. This is like one of those like this account operates in a similar capacity to one of those like stake promoted accounts. He will clip this, get hard because you notice him. I know. I mean, it doesn't really matter. He gets like 2K likes per max, but he'll like imagine, hey, watching my gaming streams. My audience doesn't even watch my gaming streams, and this guy's in here. You can't give this guy any attention at all. You looked at him once and he's having a mental breakdown. Isn't this the stalker guy? Yeah, he's one of the stalker guys. He's in all the stalker discords, and he literally communicates with the other stalker guys as well. And the other stalker guys give him tips on what to get me banned on. Like he once revealed his DMs with another one of those fucking stalker accounts who was like, "Yeah, you should use this clip. You should use this clip. This will get him banned." Changed. One day, I hope that you will be mentally well. Okay.
And that's why I fought for him to get that job, because they had some other candidates that I'll tell you would not have done a very good job.
He just wants you to cover the news this way. Yeah. Based. Yeah. I think this guy's got some pretty good ideas. Yeah.
We're gonna get him a clip of that little last statement. The rest of the statements he doesn't care.
Sir, how does this new transatlantic cooperation, how do you envision it?
Well, that's one thing. I mean, we're on the other side of the ocean, and they're right there. And yet we're in for $350 billion because of Biden. And
oh yeah, we're going to cover the Israel using sexual assault systematically as a weapon of war with infinitely more evidence, according to the United Nations Human Rights Report that just came out, 49 pages detailing the harrowing nature of sexual assault being used as a weapon in war by the Israeli occupying force later in the broadcast.
And it's unfair. And I said, you have to equalize. They should equalize. They should have. It should have never happened where Biden just gave this money away. Now, as you know, we have an agreement with Ukraine on the rare earths and other things, and that'll get us something back, a lot back. It'll get us our money back. We're not doing it for that, though. I'm just doing this to get the war stopped. I'm doing it really to save lives, but at the same time, we were treated very unfairly, as we always are by every country. And we're in for very substantially more than the European nations are in for, and that shouldn't be. You know, they're much more affected by it than we are, because we do have an ocean in between. But I don't know, I think good things are going to happen. I really do. I think good things are going to happen. I do say, we were talking before, and Mark was very nice. He said, if you would get involved, there would be nothing. You'd just be going on. This thing would have gone on for a long
Breaking
time.
a deadlock.
Tesla.
We did break a deadlock. I hope. Did you have one? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Amanda Head with Just the News. On the southern border, you've got DHS and ICE who are reporting that there was a little bit of fudging of numbers during the Biden administration on both the catch and the release side with respect to reporting the number of illegals coming into the
They
country.
cheated on the numbers. The numbers were. I love that question. Who are you with? Very nice. That's good.
What the hell is that?
Alejandro Mayorkas, who gets
No,
held
Biden
accountable?
fudged the numbers. The numbers were totally fake. And he gave fake numbers. I knew they were fake. Everybody knew they were fake, but now it came out. And terrible what they did. That administration was a horror show for this country.
Can you hold anyone accountable?
Well, I don't know. They gave phony numbers. And phony numbers are a very bad thing to give, but I'm not sure about that. I don't know how it would play. We want to get it straightened out. We're after many, many bad people that were let into our country, and Kristi Noem and my friend Homan. How good is Tom Homan doing, right? And they're after him, and I mean, you see they're taking him out in record numbers. Gang members, gang leaders, drug dealers. There's a problem the Netherlands does not have. The Netherlands never had this problem. If you'd like to take it,
We had a few drug dealers.
I could deliver some people. I could deliver some nice people to the Netherlands if you'd like.
I'm not sure.
No, what he did to this country, letting 21 million people flow through an open border. Many of those people were hard criminals from prisons and jails, from mental institutions, and I always say insane asylums, because they were seriously deranged. And they're here from, not South America, from all over the world. From South America, but from all over the world. And it's so sad. You'd say, why would anybody do this? Why? Yeah, go ahead.
And one more, there's some new internal Democrat polling that doesn't look great for Democrats, but it also has 54% unfavorability for Republicans in swing states and battlegrounds for the midterms. Do you consider those voters capturable for Republicans?
Yeah, well, we did, you know, I won every swing state, as you know, by a lot. And I won the popular vote by a lot. And we won the counties. If you look at the counties and district plan, we had 2,725, and they had 501. That's why the map is all red. So we had a great thing. Yeah, I think winning from the Democrats, I saw, if you look the other night, I made a speech, and I introduced two young ladies who were killed, viciously, violently killed, young, unbelievable, both outstanding people that were killed by illegal
It's good that Mark Rutte is in the Oval for this conversation.
aliens, and the Democrats wouldn't get up and applaud. The mothers were.
This is my favorite flex that Trump does, where he just like sits global leaders right next to him and then just like rambles on about other shit, like about how he won the election, how awesome it was that he won the election. You know?
I mean, inconsolable. They were crying, and everybody was crying. The Democrats sat there with stone faces. They didn't clap. They didn't stand. They didn't do anything. We had a young man with very serious cancer. His dream is to be with the police department someday, and he was introduced. They didn't even clap.
Yeah, that's
I mean, they were disgusting. Frankly, they were disgusting. There's something wrong with them.
He's talking about
They're
not
deranged,
clapping, joint hill.
deranged people. And I never saw anything like it. I'm standing up, and I introduced the mother and the parents of these two young girls that were just recently essentially killed, violently killed. And the Democrats are like this. It's so sad. And I saw this morning where one of them is pretty well known, one is arguing, fighting like crazy over men being able to play in women's sports. I said, yeah, I thought that was tried. I thought that was about a 95%, I think it's a 95% issue. But in a way, I want them to keep doing it, because I don't think they can win a race. I mean, and I tell the Republicans, I said, don't bring that subject up, because there's no election right now. But about a week before the election, bring it up, because you can't lose. And everything's transgender this, transgender that. You know, they have bad.
I saw a Media Matters poll on this, by the way, when Trump was talking about everything is transgender this, transgender that. I think around 80% of trans issues, like 80% of all things related to trans folk, come from right-wing media outlets. Like progressive outlets and like directly queer outlets, you know? Like outlets that cover queer-related issues, queer lifestyle issues, combined barely put a dent. Like they barely make 20%. It's like an insane disparity, which is fairly eye-opening. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Media Matters right-wing trans report. Is this it? Hold on. New analysis reveals the extent of Fox News' obsession with Trump's anti-trans orders, but this isn't even it. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. It's wild. Like the content about trans people are almost entirely coming from right-wing outlets. Those are the only outlets that talk about trans people. Like they dominate the pipeline, and it's crazy because it's like, oh, here it is. Thank you. Fox News outstripped CNN, MSNBC in first month covering Trump's anti-trans executive orders, but this is not even it. No, this isn't even what I'm looking for. There's another one. Right-leaning Facebook pages earn nearly 2/3 of interaction. Yep, there it is. Right-leaning pages made 77% of the top-performing trans-related posts. Facebook interactions on all trans-related posts by page ideology from 2020 to 2021. This is an older post. I will become an LGBT foe if you don't click. What is this? This is trans-friendly. The worst 1v1 of 2019. Dude, no. Take an hour off. I'm not. You're crazy. Look at this. Left-leaning pages, non-aligned pages, right-leaning pages. Number of Facebook posts about trans issues by page ideology. Interactions on trans-related issues, right-leaning pages. Trans-related posts earning up to at least 50,000 interactions by page ideology. Now, you might say, oh, it's because right-wing is dominant. And I agree. Right-wing is dominant on Facebook. Right-wing has always been dominant on Facebook. But even the number of total posts is like insane. Even the number, like the overwhelming amount of trans-related content, the overwhelming amount of trans-related interactions almost entirely comes from right-wing outlets. They talk about trans people in an obsessed manner. They talk about trans people more than anybody else. This is something that I've mentioned before. It's like they have this like almost this psychopathic obsession with trans people. They think about trans people more than trans people do. It's insane.
Politics, but one thing, they stick together. You know, I wish the Republicans stick together mostly, but we have a couple that are grandstanders.
It's a wild fixation, dude.
In life. But the Democrats, they have grandstanders, but when it comes to a vote, they do stick together, right? Yes, sir.
No doubt it's majority right, but it doesn't say 77-23 overall, just top performing. Yes, I apologize. It is 77% of all interactions come from right-leaning posts, okay? All interactions overall on trans-related issues.
They'll stick together on the shutdown. Will that hurt Democrats going into midterms?
Well, if they do a shutdown, and ultimately that might lead to very, very high taxes, because we're talking about a shutdown, we're talking about getting to work immediately on the greatest tax bill ever passed. That was the one we did. It was a renewal, and it's an addition to it. And we're going to cut people's taxes. And if we don't open, the Democrats are stopping all of these good things that we're providing. We're providing the greatest package of benefits that this country's ever provided. The biggest part of that's going to be tax cuts for the middle class and for businesses, small businesses, employers, people that hire people in jobs. And if it's shut down, it's only going to be, if there's a shutdown, it's only because of the Democrats. And they would really be taking away a lot from our country.
It takes two to tango. The irony, of course, is that if it doesn't shut down, if the Democrats concede, if they cave, if they capitulate, okay, against the Republicans on this issue, then they're basically handing the Republican Party an opportunity to defund a lot of these federal agencies, which unironically will commit the federal government to a permanent shutdown, at least on numerous agencies. So it's a very weird predicament where you shut down the government if you don't shut down the government.
And from the people of our country.
You made clear you're not backing down from this, but many American small business owners say they are concerned that these tariffs are going to hurt them. What's your message to them?
They're going to be so much richer than they are right now. And we have many. Yesterday, General Motors was in. They want to invest $60 billion. The people from Facebook were in yesterday. They're going to invest $60 billion by the end of the year. Other people are talking about numbers. Apple, as you know, a few days ago announced $500 billion investment. They're going to build their plants in the United States, which, as you know, almost all of their plants are in China. Now they're building in the United States. Look, the reason is two things. Number one, the election, November 5th, and the other thing is tariffs. I think probably in that order. But Tim Cook came in and he announced 500, think of it, 500 billion, not million. 500 million's a lot when you think about it, right? But, well, I would have been happy with 500 million, but it's $500 billion investment by Apple in the United States. And that's because of the election result, and it's because of the tariffs and the tax incentives too, you know, tariffs and tax incentives. And I've never seen anything like it. We have plants going up now in Indiana. We have plants going up in Michigan. A lot of plants going to be planned from, I'm trying to steer them to Michigan because Michigan got so badly beaten by, you know, what happened with Europe. You know, if you look at Europe, take a look at the EU. We're not allowed to sell cars there. It's prohibitive because of their policies and also their non-monetary tariffs. They put obstacles in your way that you can do nothing about. But if you take a look at what happens, so we sell no cars to Europe. I mean, virtually no cars. And they sell millions of cars to us. They don't take our agriculture, we take their agriculture. It's like a one-way street with them. The European Union is very, very nasty. They sue our companies. Apple was forced to pay $16 billion on a case that, like, very much like my case, is that I...
That's crazy that he's mad that they sued Apple. Dog, the only reason why they get to sue Apple is because Apple is avoiding American taxes.
They shouldn't have been even cases, but we felt they had no case, and they ended up having an extremely favorable judge and decision. But they're suing Google, they're suing Facebook, they're suing all of these companies, and they're taking billions of...
Like, he's mad that Apple moved its facilities to Ireland because they want to use Ireland as a tax haven. And then he's doubly mad that the EU successfully extracted 13 billion euros, $14 billion in taxes from Apple. Like, what you want? I don't understand. No, we're talking about not antitrust. We're talking about the tax bill case. EU court rules against Apple in case collected 14 billion in taxes Ireland never collected. We're not talking about the antitrust one, which was also another good. That was also unironically another instance where European regulators actually made consumer-friendly protections that actually will help all of us in the long run. No, they sued him over a bunch of stuff. Yeah, they sued him over universal ports. They sued him over, I think they sued him over right to repair. Oh God, I drank way too much coffee in the morning. But yeah, he's complaining that the EU courts sued Apple for taxes that they didn't pay to the EU. The reason why Apple's even paying taxes to Ireland is literally because they use Ireland as a tax haven.
Dollars out of American companies, many more than the ones I just mentioned. And I guess they're using it to run Europe or something. I don't know what they're using it for, but they treat us very badly. China obviously treats us very badly. Almost everybody does, and I blame past presidents, to be honest, because when I was president, we received so far about $700 billion from China over the years on the tariffs that I put in. No other president got 10 cents from China, and that was only beginning. Except for COVID, I would have been able to finish the process, but we had to fight the COVID thing, and we did really well with it, but we had to fight. And then we had actually, as you remember, Mark, we actually handed over the stock market. It was higher than just previous to COVID coming in, which was sort of a miracle, frankly. We did a good job. But the tariffs are very important. And I think the psychology, there's great spirit. When Mark came in, he said, congratulations, there's a whole new spirit, there's a whole new light over this country and really over the world. Because you have somebody that, a whole group of people really, because I talk about this whole group that we know.
Can you please emphasize to your audience that Trump is a liar and an idiot? Mark Rutte is not a good guy. He's a sociopathic demon who destroyed our country for 14 years. Fuck him. And his motor, yeah. Yes, I think I emphasize it quite a bit.
What we're doing, and a lot of great things are happening, but I've never seen investment like this. Trillions of dollars is being invested in the United States now that would have never, our country could have failed. Another 4 years of this, what happened in the last 4 years, our country would have been a crime-ridden mess. And I don't know if you noticed, little thing they call it, but it's not a little thing if you don't have, if you like eggs and you don't have a lot of money. Eggs have gone down 25% in the last couple of weeks. We inherited that problem, eggs. Groceries have gone down a little bit. Energy's gone down. Do you want to speak to that for a second, Governor? Would you just say a couple of words, you and Chris, about energy, what's happened?
Well, happy to, but I think that Chris and I just came from CERAWeek, which is the largest conference in the world, so global leaders, people from the EU, officials from all the energy producing countries, all there, and all the global nationals, all the US. The spirit of that group is through the roof because now they realize that in the United States that President Trump's policies are pro-developing more energy, as opposed to we're trying to shut down energy, and that pro-growth, pro-business, pro-energy approach is giving people the optimism. So then the markets are reacting to that, and energy prices on the futures market are going to go down because people know we're not going to be killing off the energy we need for prosperity.
As much as I'm excited as a Bergamaniac for holding space, it's hard for me to be supportive of the statements that I'm hearing, you know.
Prosperity in all of our countries, but also for peace. Because people have used energy to fuel these wars that President Trump is working so hard to end. And we know that high energy prices were driving the inflation that he talked about. So it accomplishes two goals for us, which is prosperity for the world, peace for the world, when we have smart energy policies. And President Trump has brought common sense back to how we think about energy.
And it's brought down now $65 a barrel, I saw this morning. That's phenomenal news. And that's going to bring, that's what brought it up. The energy went, they took our beautiful energy policies and they just messed them up. And then they went immediately back to them but by that time they lost it. They lost that Bronco, as the expression goes. Chris, do you have something to say?
Oh, I think Doug said it well, but you just can't overstate how important the return of common sense, the return of knowledge about energy and pro-American consumers, pro-investment in our country. I think globally that was welcomed. It means capital flows, it means more sobriety and lower energy prices, more economic opportunity for Americans. So yeah, it was elated atmosphere at a global energy conference.
Well, we're working on one project. It should be very easy. It's a pipeline going through a small section of New York. New York's held it up for years, actually, for years. They've wanted to do it for years and years. And it will reduce the most expensive energy almost in the world is in New England because they have no way of getting it there because it's been held up by New York. And the whole of New England and Connecticut and New York, the energy prices are through the roof. And this one pipeline will save per family $2,500 just on heating and another $2,500 on everything else. So the energy, by just a simple pipeline going through an area that wants it, an area that's not a rich area, it's actually a very poor area, would create jobs and everything else. And it's going to be way underground. Nobody's going to see it. Once they fill it up, nobody's going to see it. Nobody's going to know it's there. And families in New York and Connecticut and New England are going to save $5,000 a family. Think of that. Because right now they have the highest energy prices maybe in the world, they say. New England is a disaster. So we're working on that. In fact, the governor's coming in, Governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, who's a very nice woman. She's coming in tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock to meet me on that and other things. Not only that, but other things. So I hope we don't have to use the extraordinary powers of the federal government to get it done. But if we have to, we will. But I don't think we'll have to. I can tell you Connecticut wants it and all of New England wants it. And who wouldn't want it? And it's also jobs on top of everything else. So that's going to be very exciting. So we're meeting with the governor tomorrow morning.
Mr. President, Greenland
What is your vision for the potential annexation of Greenland and getting them potentially to
Well, I think it'll happen, and I'm just thinking, I didn't give it much thought before, but I'm sitting with a man that could be very instrumental. You know, Mark, we need that for international security, not just security, international. We have a lot of our favorite players, cruising around the coast, and we have to be careful. And we'll be talking to you. It's a very appropriate, really a very appropriate question.
There's an
Thank
issue
you
in the
very
High
much.
North, so the Arctic. So what you did. So when it comes to Greenland, yes or not joining the US, I would leave that outside for me this discussion because I don't want to drag NATO in that. But when it comes to the High North and the Arctic, you are totally right. The Chinese are now using these routes. We know that the Russians are rearming. We know we have a lack of icebreakers. So the fact that outside Russia, there are 7 Arctic countries working together on this under US leadership is very important to me.
NATO Secretary laughs as Trump threatens to annex Greenland, Denmark, NATO country. Yeah, he's been getting, he's always hot and cold when it comes to this sort of stuff, but this interview provided a lot of interesting takes, to say the least, whether it be agitating with troop presence in the Panama Canal, or agitating or promoting a troop presence in Greenland. It's just like, there's not really much you can do if you are a NATO country or a NATO leader, because NATO itself is basically designed for the United States of America. It's built entirely for American empire, American imperialism. Anyone who doesn't recognize that is being a little silly. I think at this stage, perhaps it's a little bit more revealing, considering how Donald Trump is actively talking like NATO is his own personal fleshlight, and these leaders have to sit around and laugh as though he's just memeing, ha ha ha. And I know you say diplomacy, but like, if America wasn't as powerful and didn't have this much presence over NATO and this much command over NATO, I don't think European leaders would allow anyone to talk like this. Viktor Orban is a great example. Viktor Orban talks like this sometimes as a European leader, and we all know how the rest of the European leaders behave around Viktor Orban, or how they treat Viktor Orban. Viktor Orban!
Make sure that that region, that part of the world stays safe, and we know things are changing there, and we have to be there.
Well, we just had an election there the other day. Do you see a referendum, a plebiscite, where the people of Greenland would be in a position to decide if they want to become part of the United States?
Yeah, it was a good election for us, as you know. It was not a referendum. It wouldn't be called that. It was an individual election. But the person that did the best is a very good person, as far as we're concerned. And so we'll be talking about it, and it's very important. Mark mentioned the word icebreakers.
Greenlanders want independence, but they overwhelmingly do not want America to be to come in and take over Greenland. So it seems like even if the majority wants independence, they just mean independence from Denmark, and not necessarily an opportunity for America to come and get and annex them.
So we've ordered, we're in the process of ordering 48 icebreakers, and Canada wants to know if they could use them. I said, well, you know, you got to pay for them. Think of it, Canada. We pay for their military. You know, Canada pays very little for their military because they think we're going to protect them. But even with the icebreakers, so we're going to order 48, and Canada wants to be part of the deal. I say, you got to get your own icebreakers. I mean, if you're a state, you can be part of the deal, but if you're a separate country, you got to get your own icebreakers. Russia, as you know, has about 40 of them, and we have one big icebreaker, but that whole area is becoming very important, and for a lot of reasons, the routes are, you know, very direct to Asia, to Russia, and you have ships all over the place, and we have to have protection. So we're going to have to make a deal on that, and Denmark is not able to do that. You know, Denmark's very far away and really has nothing to do. What happens? A boat landed there 200 years ago or something, and they say they have rights to it. I don't know if that's true. I don't think it is, actually. But we've been dealing with Denmark, we've been dealing with Greenland, and we have to do it. We really need it for national security. I think that's why NATO might have to get involved in a way, because we really need Greenland for national security. It's very important. You know, we have a couple of bases on Greenland already, and we have quite a few soldiers, and maybe you'll see more and more soldiers go there. I don't know. What do you think about that, Pete? So, don't answer that, Pete. Don't answer that question. But we have bases, and we have quite a few soldiers on Greenland.
Some question your commitment to NATO. Will anything change? Your commitment to NATO. Will anything change? Same amount of money?
Well, I think they made a great step by putting Mark in charge. I think, to me, that's a great step, because he and I have seen eye to eye on everything for a long time. We've been doing this a long time now.
9 years now.
And so that's a great step. You have to keep NATO strong. You have to keep it relevant. But the biggest thing we have to worry about right now is what's going on right now. I think the rest is going to take care of itself. I don't see this happening. This was a fluke. This was something that, if we had a competent president, it would not have happened. The man was grossly incompetent. All you have to do is take a look at, he signs by AutoPen. Who was signing all this stuff by AutoPen? Who would think you signed important documents by AutoPen? You know, these are major documents you're signing. You're proud to sign them. You have your signature on something. In 300 years, they say, oh, look, can you imagine? Everything was signed by AutoPen, almost everything. Nobody's ever heard of such a thing, so it should have never happened.
Tomorrow with the Justice Department about law and order, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're going to be with the Justice Department. We have a great Justice Department. Pam Bondi is so fantastic, and Todd Blanche, and Emil, you got to know him a little bit. He was acting for a little while. And some other people are incredible in the Justice Department, and I consider the FBI to be a part of it in a sense, and Cash is going to be fantastic, and all the people. Dan Bongino, I love that. I mean, I love that. I think Dan is great. I think we have unbelievable people, and all I'm going to do is set out my vision. It's going to be their vision, really, but it's my ideas, and basically we don't want to have crime in the streets. We don't want to have people pushed into subways and killed, and then the person that did the pushing ends up in a 15-year trial and gets off scot-free. We want to have justice, and we want to have safety in our cities as well as our communities. And we'll be talking about immigration. We'll be talking about a lot of things, the complete gamut. So I look forward to that. That'll be tomorrow at the Justice Department.
Mr. President, you're a man of peace. You said it several times, and you made it very clear. A man of peace dealing with belligerent people. Yeah. And I'm thinking, we saw how you handled Zelensky in this very own room. What is your leverage on Putin? Are you thinking sanctions?
I'm going to throw up, dude. Every question has to be prefaced a million times over with, every question has to be prefaced with so much glaze that you can barely hear them over the spittle. It's wild.
What if he refuses to?
Well, I do have leverage, but I don't want to talk about leverage now, because right now we're talking to him, and based on the statements he made today, they were pretty positive, I think. So I don't want to talk about that. I hope Russia's going to make the deal too. And I think once that deal happens, you're never going to be in a process. I don't think they're going back to shooting again. I really believe if we get a peace treaty, a ceasefire treaty, I think that leads to peace. That's going to really lead to peace. I don't think anyone wants to go back. They've been doing this for a long time, and it's vicious and violent. And I think if President Putin agrees and does a ceasefire, I think we're going to be in very good shape to get it done. We want to get it over with. That's why it was very important what I instructed everybody, including Steve, what we're looking for, to discuss concepts of land, concepts of power plants, because it's complicated. You know, you have you're sort of creating the edge of a country. The sad part is that country, if this didn't happen, and it wouldn't have happened, I don't know if they would have to give anything back. I guess Crimea, I said it last time, Crimea was given by Obama. Biden gave him the whole thing, and Bush gave him Georgia. And Trump didn't give him anything. I gave him, you know what I gave him? I gave them javelins. And the javelins were very effective, as you know. I gave them nothing.
2019.
And then also, if you take a look, I was the one that stopped the pipeline going into Europe. It was totally stopped. Nord Stream 2, nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2 before I came along.
He's like,
But
I'm the most anti-Russia.
Very well with President Putin. I got along with most of them. I get along great with President Xi. I got along great with Kim Jong-un. I got along great with all of them. And we had no wars. We had no problems. We wiped out ISIS in record time. General Raisin Kane, and he wiped them out. And he was going to be our new chief, right? He's going to be the head of Joint Chiefs of Staff. And he's a highly respected man. He's going to be great. Pete's going to be fantastic. I have no doubt about it. We have a great team. Really great team. Yeah, please. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, some of our allies have said that they're worried that they could be the next to be attacked by Russia. You've spoken directly with the Russian president.
Yeah.
Do you think those fears are justified?
No, I don't. I think when this gets done, it's done. They're going to all want to go home and rest. I don't see it happening. Nope, I don't see that happening. And we'll make sure it doesn't happen. Not going to happen, but we'll make sure it doesn't happen. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Leaders from Russia and Iran are heading to Beijing tomorrow to discuss nuclear programs. What do you hope to get out of that?
Well, maybe they're going to talk about non-nuclear programs. Maybe they're going to be talking about the de-escalation of nuclear weapons. Because, you know, I was talking about that with President Putin very strongly. And we could have done something had that election not been rigged. We would have had something. I think I would have made a deal with Putin on de-escalation, denuclearization, as they say. But we would have de-escalated nuclear weapons because the power of nuclear weapons is so great and so devastating. And right now, Russia and us have by far the most, but China will catch us within 5 years. China doesn't have, but they're in the process of building, and they build. And within 4 or 5 years, they'll probably have the same.
And by the way, this is a Republican tradition. Ronald Reagan, when he negotiated with Gorbachev in the 1980s about bringing down the number of nuclear weapons, it's what you have been doing your first term, and it is important.
It would be a great achievement if we could bring down the number. We have so many weapons, and the power is so great. And number one, you don't need them to that extent. And then we'd have to get others, because as you know, in a smaller way, Kim Jong-un has a lot of nuclear weapons, by the way, a lot. And others do also. You have India, you have Pakistan, you have others that have them, and we'd get them involved. But we started off with Russia and us. We have by far the most, and we were going to denuclearize, and that was going to happen. And then we were going to China, and I spoke to China. I spoke to President Xi about it, and he really liked the idea.
North Korea mentioned POG once again. DPRK getting a seat at the table again.
You know, he'd like not to spend trillions of dollars building weapons that hopefully he's never going to have to use, and because they are very expensive also. So that would have been great. Okay, one or two more.
There's been tension in the...
Thank you. We're looking at an impending government shutdown Friday midnight.
Yeah.
Democrats for 30 years straight have said if there's a shutdown, bad things happen. Do you anticipate direct negotiations yourself with conference leader of the
like, even this journalist is trying to ask a newsworthy question. He's trying to get a quote out of Trump that will, that will actually be newsworthy, right? Will you actually face-to-face negotiate with the Democrats? But he can't actually ask it directly, so he has to start off with like, well, the Democrats are hypocritical cowards, don't you think, Mr. President? But will you actually negotiate with them face to face if push comes to shove? This is how it works with virtually every question now in the press pool. Even if you need to do journalism and want to get like a newsworthy quote out of Trump, you have to start by saying, well, the Democrats are cowardly assholes, don't you think, Mr. President? Will you bravely face them in the field of negotiation?
Democrats, Chuck Schumer.
If they need me, I'm there 100%. It's right.
I don't really like this. I think this is definitely, God. We've always had access journalism in this country, especially post 9/11. It's gotten significantly worse, but I will say it's moving in a direction that it wasn't in before. Like people are totally normalizing just glazing Trump, and everyone just says, well, you know how he is, you just got to entertain it, and it's not good. Meanwhile, the Democrats are also seemingly not putting up as big of a battle in the Senate as we thought they would about the shutdown, which is not great either.
Now
I'll get to that in a second.
2 or 3 people. If it shuts down, it's not the Republicans' fault. You know, we passed a bill where we had an incredible Republican vote. We only had 1 negative vote, a grandstander. You know, 1 grandstander. There's always a grandstander in the lot. But it was amazing. People were amazed that the Republicans were able to vote in unison like that, so strongly. If there's a shutdown, even the Democrats admit it'll be their fault. And I'm hearing a lot of Democrats are going to vote for it, and I hope they do. This is an extension. But ultimately, we want to vote for one big, beautiful bill where we put the taxes in, we put everything in. We're going to have big tax cuts. We're going to have tremendous incentives for companies coming into our country and employing lots of people. It'll be, I called it in a rare moment, one big, beautiful bill. That's what I like, and it seems to be that's where they're heading. And we'll have to take care of something to do with Los Angeles. A place called Los Angeles almost burned to the ground. By the way, I broke into Los Angeles. Can you believe it? I had a break-in. I invaded Los Angeles, and we opened up the water, and the water is now flowing down. They have so much water, they don't know what to do. They were sending it out to the Pacific for environmental reasons. Okay, can you believe it? And in the meantime, they lost 25,000 houses. They lost, and nobody's ever seen anything like it. But we have the water. I'd love to show you a picture. You've seen the picture. The water is flowing through the half pipes. You know, we have the big half pipes that go down. 25 years ago, they used to have plenty of water, but they turned it off for environmental reasons. Well, I turned it on for environmental reasons and also fire reasons. But and I've been asking them to do that during my first term. I said, do it. I didn't think anything could happen like this, but they didn't have enough water. Now the farmers are going to have water for their land, and the water is in there. But I actually had to break in. We broke in to do it because we had people that were afraid to give water. They were, in particular, they were trying to protect a certain little fish. And I said, how do you protect a fish if you don't have water? So they're protecting a fish. And that didn't work out too well, by the way. So they have a lot of water going down throughout California, all coming out from the Pacific Northwest, even some from Canada. Thank you, Canada, very much. I appreciate it. Next thing you know, they'll want to turn the water off. They want to charge us for the water. But it comes up from the Pacific Northwest, and it's a beautiful thing to see. I mean, it is brimming with water. Now, if they would have had that done, you wouldn't have had the damage because the fire would have been put out. The fire hydrants would have been loaded. The sprinklers in people's living rooms and bedrooms would have been loaded up with water. They had no water. The government makes them put sprinklers, and they had no water in the sprinklers because they had no water. So the water is flowing, and we're going to have to give a lot of money to Los Angeles to help them. And the Democrats are going to want to do that. So that's the one thing different. And frankly, I think that makes it a lot easier. But one of the big thing is we have the big, beautiful bill. We got to get that done. And that will put our country in a position like it's never been. It's a reduction of taxes. It's tremendous incentives for companies to come from all over the world into our country. It's great environmentally, but it's not this environmental scam that we went through, that we all went through. It provides for everything. It's a big, beautiful bill, and I hope we can get it approved, and that'll be next. But in the meantime, we have the continuing resolution, and the Republicans have approved it, and now the Democrats have to approve it, and I hope they will. And I think a lot of them, I can tell you, they want to. I've spoken to some of them. They really want to. Their leadership may not want them to. And if it closes, it's purely on the Democrats. One more?
On Korea, sir, we've seen tension increasing in the peninsula. You've talked about Kim Jong-un. Do you have any plans of re-establishing the relationship you had during the first mandate?
Well, I would. I had a great relationship with Kim Jong-un, North Korea. If I wasn't elected, if Hillary got in, you would have had a nuclear war with North Korea. He expected it. He expected it. And they said, oh, thousands of people. No, millions of people would have been killed. But I got in. We went to Singapore, we met. We went to Vietnam, we met. We got along really good. We had a very good relationship, and we still do. We still do. You don't have that threat that you had. I mean, look, when I was running the first time, it looked like there was going to be a war with North Korea. You know that better than
Tensions were
anyone.
high.
Yeah. And
Everybody
it started off.
was startled that you invited him for talks,
Right.
but you did.
It started off very rough, and he wouldn't meet with Obama, wouldn't take his calls. I said, how many times did you call? They called a lot. He wouldn't take their call. He told me I wouldn't take his call. But with me, it did start off rough, if you remember. Very rough, actually, very nasty.
There was a Singapore.
And yeah, but then, no, before that, then it stopped. The rhetoric was extremely tough. It was a little bit.
To the UN, I remember.
Yeah, that's right. It was a little bit dangerous. And then we met. They asked for a meeting, and then we met. And the meeting caused the Olympics, which was in South Korea, to become a tremendous success. Nobody was buying tickets for the Olympics because they didn't want to be nuked. And I met, and not only did the Olympics become successful, but North Korea participated in the Olympics.
His sister visited.
It was an amazing thing. And that was something that was an achievement of the Trump administration, great achievement. And so I have a great relationship with Kim Jong-un, and we'll see what happens, but certainly he's a nuclear power. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So how?
Russia's Vladimir Putin, after adorning the combat fatigues yesterday in Kursk, has come out once again, this time in a suit, and is now talking about the ceasefire conditions. And it turns out he has conditions of his own. Let's take a look at what he had to say and figure out whether or not this will hold.
How are they going to use these 30 days? Are they going to use it in order to continue the forced mobilization in Ukraine, in order to supply weapons to those areas, in order to newly mobilized units to undergo training?
Just came to say goodbye. Hasanabi's going down a path I can follow. Just like Anakin, he's letting his anger get the best of him. All the fighting with other streamers isn't good for my health. I wish you the best. Thanks for all the work you do, Hassan. Still going to watch YouTube but I just can't watch the live stream anymore. Peace. Love you all. What? Just because he's on camera doesn't mean he's a streamer. That's Vladimir Putin. And the previous guy who was on camera on a live stream was the current president of the United States of America, Donald Trump. Just letting you know, these guys aren't streamers. They're world leaders. But thanks, man. Thanks for the announcement of your departure. Like it's a goddamn airport. He said like Anakin. For the record, this person is just a serial yapper. They asked me for an explainer on their timeout. I told them not to be annoying. I went to sleep and they hit me with 80 whisper messages. Yeah, no, I know. Like, there are moments where I do talk about other content creators, especially in terms of like how much propaganda that they're doing for a genocidal apartheid regime or whatever. But it's pretty funny to come in right now when I am not doing that and be like, it's over for me. I'll still keep watching and I support you. But this Putin guy, this Putler guy, this Trump guy, this Putler guy, not exactly a big fan of these streamers. I feel like, you know, your Rainbow Six content was good. I've never seen them get 3 kills in any Rainbow Six Siege game. And the very fact that you're still focusing on these guys when they got no motion whatsoever is kind of unacceptable to me. Gotta say, I'm out. This stream is like 50% bitching about another influencer. Yeah, for once. Yeah, finally, for once, this Hasanabi guy is covering the news, dude. Finally, for once.
Or none of this is going to happen. Then we have a question. How are we going to resolve the issues of control or verification?
Twitch streaming is awesome because it's one of the few places where you can both be eating all the time and away from your desk all the time when you just let videos run, but also simultaneously pause entirely too much and offer entirely too much commentary because you're a real yapper. Platform world leaders, not play enough video games, play too much video games at the same time is awesome. It's basically make your own adventure. I'm Schrodinger's streamer always. Depending on what you like or what you don't like, I fill both of those roles at the same time. For example, because I speak for 8 hours a day on hot button topics, someone can come in and say, I'm a liberal Zionist. And then another person can come in and say, I'm actually a Hamas terrorist. Many of them just say I'm a Hamas terrorist, but there are some who also say I engage in, liberal Zionist propaganda. It's just awesome. There's no winning. And at a certain point, I think people realize, like, okay, I will make up my own mind. Maybe this guy isn't what I think he is. And the only way that you can do that is if you come in here and you listen for an extended period of time.
How can we be guaranteed that none of this is going to happen in the future? How are we going to control this? I think on the level of common sense, everyone understands this. This is a very serious question. Who is going to give orders to cease fire? And what is the value of these orders? Can you imagine about 2,000 kilometers? Who is going to determine who and where violated this agreement? That's an area of 2,000 kilometers. And then who is going to blame who? The violations of this agreement. All of these are questions that need to be thoroughly studied on both sides. So the idea in itself is correct and we support it, but there are questions that need to be discussed. And I think we need to discuss this with our American partners. Maybe we need to have a call with President Trump and discuss this. But the idea in itself to stop this conflict in a peaceful way, that's something that we support.
President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, has now arrived in Moscow to brief Kremlin officials on the Ukraine ceasefire proposal. Earlier today...
How do you not let the hate get to you? Because I have firmly held convictions about my worldview and also have an incredible community of like-minded individuals who not only listen to what I have to say, but then also make up their own minds, go out and change their lives in a meaningful way, and hopefully slowly but surely change the world around them in a meaningful way. That's it. That's literally... That's the reason why all of this stuff is just background noise, He has a ton of he also has a ton of money. I mean, that definitely doesn't hurt. Yes. That certainly doesn't hurt, C-Star, thank you for the 25 get the subs. Right after a chatter said I have a ton of money. And I also have good friends and family around me. Yeah, I agree with 99.9% of shit, and I've learned a tremendous amount from you, but you're still an enormous asshole. Yeah, but I like to think that I'm an enormous asshole to people who are being enormous assholes to others, People who are being ginormous assholes to marginalized communities, minorities, people who are vulnerable. That's it. I've never said I won't bully someone. I bully motherfuckers all the time. I just bully people who I think deserve it, which certainly creates a lot of anger and animosity from the audiences of the people who deserve it. But yeah, I'm gonna, if you don't think I'm gonna make fun of a Nazi or a pedophile or a psychopath, like, you're in the wrong place.
Though Russian President Vladimir Putin said he has, quote, reservations about the 30-day ceasefire, adding that there are still many things that need to be discussed before a deal gets done.
We agree with the proposals to end hostilities, but we proceed from the fact that this end should be such that it would lead to long-term peace and eliminate the root causes of the crisis. But I think that we need to talk about this with our American colleagues, partners, maybe call President Trump and discuss it with him. But the idea itself, to end this conflict by peaceful means, is supported by us.
CNN Chief International Correspondent Clarissa Ward is live in Kyiv. Clarissa, taking a look at the reaction from Russia, which is so essential, right? You heard White House officials saying if Russia does not accept this, then they'll know who the impediment to peace is. How are you?
That's so funny. Yeah. I mean, come on, dude. I think, yeah, they are an impediment to peace. They are the ones who invaded. Like, This is also partially the reason why I categorize like Crimea's annexation entirely in a separate category than like what Russia has been doing since invading the rest of Ukraine. Okay. There is a difference there. Like, you are an aggressor, a very violent aggressor. You're an aggressor in both instances, but at least on one you had like a lease agreement and more sympathies from the people that lived there, as opposed to what you've done since then. The reality of the matter is Russia is an impediment to peace. Like, it's fucking ridiculous to make it seem as though they're not. They're literally in Ukraine. They've annexed Ukraine. Now they want to take 4 of the territories permanently from Ukraine.
Are you reading what we're hearing out of the Kremlin?
Well, I think it's a somewhat enigmatic response, but roughly along the lines of what we expected, in the sense that President Putin was very keen to heap praise upon President Trump. He called the idea in principle great. He expressed gratitude, but then he went on to basically delineate a number of issues that Russia would want clarification on. Whether this is a stalling tactic designed to give Russia more time, or whether this is an act of sincerely engaging in this process in a meaningful way, remains to be seen. One of the issues that he brought up was the issue of Kursk, where Russian forces have essentially now isolated the Ukrainian forces and a withdrawal of Ukraine.
He also said he would treat mercenaries as terrorists in Kursk, and that like, you know, he's gonna capture Kursk and most likely torture every Ukrainian soldier and torture the foreign mercenaries extra hard. That's basically what he was spelling out.
Ukrainian forces. Looks like it's already underway, but certainly we're talking days, not weeks, before Kursk will likely fall back under complete Russian control. He also raised the issue of, will it be possible for Ukraine during this 30 days to remobilize? Will it be possible for them to regroup, reconstitute, rearm? What kind of guarantee?
No, Kursk is a Russian city. It's not inside of Ukraine. It was a Ukrainian counteroffensive in the midst of the Russian expansion into Ukraine, where mostly foreign the foreign battalions pushed into Kursk Oblast in Russia.
Guarantees could we be given that wouldn't happen? What kind of guarantees can we be given in terms of how the ceasefire will be monitored, or how it will be enforced, and who gets to say when hostility?
Kossak Gundi was a Brit who joined the Ukrainian Marines, not Foreign Legion, but was captured and obviously tortured by Russians. Jesus Christ. I do think it's kind of ironic that for the past couple of years, a lot of NATO Andes have been saying, oh, if there's any ceasefire whatsoever, Russia will be able to use that as an opportunity to recoup their losses and regroup and rearm and attack even harder. And to them, I said this was a bullshit excuse because both sides have that opportunity. And in the process, if they were to go back to fighting, then you're back to square one anyway. Now, it's interesting because now Russia is saying that because they also don't want to fucking stop pummeling Ukraine right now when they're in the process of retaking Kursk. Now, Putin is using that same excuse. It's fucking ridiculous. Okay? It's ridiculous. It's idiotic. It's bullshit. Anyone that says that is a direct impediment to peace. But of course, Vladimir Putin was an impediment to peace. Now, how have we arrived at this situation? Perhaps it would have been better if the fucking American leader, our glorious president, Donald J. Trump, didn't spend the past month and a half shitting on our proxy that we have used and abused in this fucking process, that have a very valid claim to, you know, want to rid their borders of a Russian invasion. Perhaps you wouldn't look like such a fucking asshole if you didn't actively seemingly defend Adolf Hitler. Okay? They are so goddamn bad at diplomacy, it pisses me off. Because on the one hand, I do agree that you have to bring Russia to the table to set the stage for a ceasefire and permanent negotiations and a permanent cessation to hostilities. You have to do that. There's no other way to do that. You can't defeat them militarily, so there's nothing you can do in that process. But also at the same time, you probably shouldn't undermine your side of the bargain so aggressively at the behest of the dudes who you are supposed to be negotiating against. It was a ridiculous move that I criticized. And those who have been in here long enough know that the reason why I criticized it is because I also want a permanent end to the hostilities. So even when Trump seemingly was going to present himself as seemingly was going to be on the right side, okay, in terms of putting an end to the senseless death, he still fucked it all the way up. And now you got you got Putin taking great advantage of that. He's taking advantage of that. America even went so far as to stop intelligence sharing with Ukraine, albeit for a brief moment. That is insane. Marco Rubio came out and said, we're never going to arm Russia. That is the most insane. What the fuck was that? Like, why did he say that? What is happening? My "we're never going to help Russia invade Ukraine" shirt is bringing up more questions than the shirt itself answers. A real "I'm not a pedophile" t-shirt wearing moment here, you know? It's ridiculous. As someone who is an advocate for peace, as someone who is an advocate for an end to this war, this unjustifiable war that Russia started, make no mistake, I understand the necessity to bring them to the fucking table. I, however, don't understand why this dumb fuck is turning around and shitting on Zelensky and removing whatever kind of leverage, like whatever kind of minor leverage that the Ukrainians might have in this process. It's ridiculous.
These actually stop. So some will interpret this as sort of willful filibustering, if you will. And certainly when we heard from the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky this morning.
It is absolutely absurdly unrealistic expectation to think the side of a war currently winning across the entire front line and rolling up its enemy would stop and take a ceasefire is brain dead. There needs to be an actual peace deal with concessions, and negotiations can happen and occur without a ceasefire. Ceasefire offers pure optics. I think this is a silly way to approach the subject matter, especially considering the material losses that the Russian side has also incurred. And also what you're saying unironically is proving the point that NATO people were making over and over again, which is to arm Ukraine to the fucking gills then and try to get them to not lose against the Russian front lines. Therefore, they can have more leverage. A foolhardy bargain, a foolhardy endeavor that definitely extended the war process and pushed back a potential ceasefire negotiation when Ukraine had the most leverage it ever did. I don't think it's smart to do this at all. You got to do one or the other. Either you bring Russia to the table and actually implement some ceasefire negotiations, or while not, disarming your side of the process, or you arm the fuck out of Ukraine and even send in mercenaries so that they have manpower, because that's what they're lacking the most. Re-up and rearm Ukraine and, I don't know, extend this battle for as long as it takes. Ukraine will suffer in the process. Ukraine will incur all of the losses in this process, of course. But the goal there would be to, I guess, undermine and force Russia into a battle of attrition that will most likely ruin not only their economy, but their future as well. The future of Russia is under threat in that situation if they just keep melting their fucking young in trench warfare. It's a really shitty situation, especially for Ukraine. Now, they're young. You sound like you're talking about aliens. Like they're youth. They're an entire generation lost in the flatlands of Ukraine. No one is saying don't make a peace deal. What we're saying is Russia won't take a ceasefire until that happens because Russia is winning universally at this current point in time and only strengthening their bargaining position. I mean, what matters in that process for Russia is also, is it worth? I don't think it's worth. Yeah, the Russian lady didn't hold back when asked about the war. This channel also, this was filmed in Moscow in May 2023. Question, are we losing? I wish we had lost because I don't like it at all. They're killing civilians in Ukraine. It's not, M-Hus, it's nice seeing young Russians be candid about their country's choices in interviews, something that takes way more bravery to do than most places. Yeah. Ukrainians, we're all Slavs, brotherly people, although now they don't like it when we say that. They destroy homes. Bakhmut was completely destroyed. Mariupol. Everything is destroyed in Melitopol. People have nowhere to live. My friend lives in Donetsk. They're bombing there, and he can't apply to university. They're in total shambles over there. You know who thought something about NATO attacking us? No one would attack us. We're a huge country. It would just be unprofitable for them to attack us. This is complete nonsense. The war was started over nothing. It's true. That part is also true. That's why I said, when Russia decided, when the Russian government decided, no, the only way to stop NATO from further advancing along the Russian border is to invade Ukraine. That was the most idiotic fucking thing you could do. Why was it the most idiotic thing you could do? Because you already had decent trade relations by way of energy with Europe, and no one actually wanted. If I know that no one was going to allow Ukraine into NATO, you think Vladimir Putin didn't know that? That's an insane fucking short-sighted and otherwise idiotic thing to do. And guess, you know what else is going to happen in this process? Here, I'll give you my fucking speculation. Let's say there is a permanent ceasefire. There is a permanent end to the hostilities. And in the process, Russia forces America and Ukraine's hand to permanently annex, with recognition, the 4 Ukrainian territories that it currently occupies. Okay, 20% of the 20% of Ukrainian territory. Let's say that happens. Do you think, honestly, that, and this is why I also separate Crimea from the rest of this process, and you'll understand exactly why I'm separating Crimea. Do you fucking think that those guys whose homes have been blown up, who might have even had sympathies with Russia, who have immediate family members who live in Russia, who speak Russian, that now hate Russia because their fucking homes have been exploded by Russia? Do you think that those guys are not going to do insurgency? How long can a country like Russia, especially when it is now inside of its own territorial boundaries, maintain a counterinsurgency initiative in an otherwise hostile nation, in an otherwise hostile terrain? How long? You are going to have a real major crisis of Ukrainian terrorism. Okay, that's it. That's it. There's no way to deal with this permanently. There's no way to deal with this permanently. You cannot, it is not like Crimea at all for this reason, because if you take over an area with its own military that already had existing sympathies or had people that were closely aligned and identified ethnically as your people or whatever, and you already had a fucking lease agreement for a military base regardless in Sevastopol, but you took it over without firing a fucking shot, that's entirely different. The reception from that population is going to be entirely different in terms of long-term stability. Okay? As opposed to every other place that Russia has blown into fucking oblivion. You cannot strong arm people, okay? You can't. They're always going to want to be free. Even if you give them citizenship, you're always going to have to be paranoid about whether or not they will want revenge. And they will definitely want revenge. Do you understand what I mean? This is a major difference. This is the major difference as to why I categorize Crimea very differently than the rest of eastern Ukraine that Russia has annexed. They will never be able to permanently fucking maintain annexation in eastern Ukraine. Okay, Russia has won counterinsurgent wars, though, dude. There's a very big difference between Chechnya and even Dagestan, if you want to consider that, and Ukraine. Okay, there's a big difference. First of all, Chechnya didn't have fucking NATO weapons, NATO training, and also an entire national identity that revolved around being rid of the USSR or anything like that. There's a difference between Ukraine and Chechnya in this regard. Ukraine is a fully established, Ukraine is a fully established nation. Sure, it was very poor even before the Russian invasion, but it doesn't matter. Like, these are people with a sense of national identity and comfort and security that they got from being not a part of Russia, but also being a part of a sovereign nation. In Crimea, they installed politicians and did a covert op, not directly invade Crimea, you mean, right? As opposed to Ukraine? Yes, there was no bombing campaigns in Crimea. That's what I mean. There's a very big difference between annexation of that sort versus annexation that is impossible to manage. Permanent annexation of that sort is impossible to manage unless you literally bring in settlers, unless you literally bring in ethnic Russians. But the problem with Ukraine is that how do you distinguish between someone being of Ukrainian heritage or someone being of Russian heritage but now fucking hates Russia because Russia bombed their house and bombed and killed their fucking neighbors and bombed their school and is going to want revenge against the people that perpetrated those acts? Yes, I know Russia brought settlers into Crimea, but they also brought settlers into Crimea by ethnically Russifying Crimea years prior to the Crimean invasion under the USSR. So there's a long history there in terms of changing the demographics of Crimea far before the USSR dissolved. Yeah. Here's the truth, and PR Zur is correct. Crimean Tatars constituted the majority of Crimea's population from the time of ethnogenesis until the mid-19th century, and the largest ethnic population until the end of the 19th century. Russia attempted to purge Crimean Tatars through a combination of physical violence, intimidation, and forced resettlement, and legalized forms of discrimination between 1783 and 1900. But then also, even in the USSR, there was also like a ethnic displacement that took place as well. It's not just the Tsar. It's not Tsar's Russia that cleansed the region. Like, there was also there wasn't a significant attempt to, like, Russia did. USSR did a lot of Russification. This is true. Like, let's not act like that wasn't the case. So I don't know. I mean, this is part of the reason why. I often will talk about Crimea versus eastern Ukraine, and why it is a major issue why it is an unimaginable issue for Russia to invade Ukraine and then try to permanently annex these territories inside of eastern Ukraine. It's not something that's going to make. It's not something that's sustainable. That's just the way I see it. I don't think that Russia will be able to. I don't think that Russia will be able to permanently have a sustainable, permanent annexed land in eastern Ukraine. It'll open up so many opportunities of espionage. It will create. It is basically a weapon to wield against Russia permanently. Okay, you let in all of the. Let's say you offer citizenship to every single Ukrainian in the annexed territories. A lot of them are understandably going to be seeking revenge. Many of them are trained. There are plenty of people who have taken up arms against Russia. Let's say that they actually join like covert operations against Russia. When you talk about Russia, all of the former Soviet states will have a lot to say to you. Okay, so what? I think that is going to inevitably lead to more volatility for Russia. Way to ignore the Banderite terror inflicted on the region. Much of the area Russia holds currently. Decades of shelling, insane anti-Russian racism, etc. Also, this area is in large part Russian-speaking as a mother tongue and has sympathies with Russia. You also seem to be ignorant of this or just ignoring the history. No, I think that is fucking maximalist copium at this point. Kharkiv is a great example of an area that had a lot of sympathies for Russia. Fairly sympathetic to Russia. Everything that you're describing would fit the bill for Kharkiv. Look at Kharkiv now. Look at Kharkiv now and their attitudes towards Russian annexation now. Why the fuck would anybody go, oh, thank God we got liberated by being bombed? What are you, a fucking George W. Bush supporter? You think that they brought democracy to Iraq? Is that what you're going to say? This is the nuance that I try to bring to the table when talking about critical support or no critical support in terms of like countries that are outside of the boundaries and the influence of Western empire. A lot of people, when they're talking about China, a lot of leftists, when they're talking about China or when they're talking about Russia, sometimes come across like they're fucking, come across like they're hogs for these countries. You know what I mean? Critical support doesn't mean uncritical support. Like when talking about Xinjiang with China, like there are definitely people that basically will justify the Chinese government's attitude and say it was the right thing to do. I don't think it was the right thing to do. And I don't spend a good deal of time on this stuff because I think the way, like the place I have in this media landscape is to obviously try to get people to understand that like a lot of these nations are comprised of individuals. They're not monolithic, that have decent reasons to hate America and that we shouldn't hate them and we shouldn't wage war. But the reality of the matter is, yes, of course, every fucking nation state engages in brutal acts of conquest. This is just what nation states do. I'm not an anarchist. I think that there's reason for nation states to exist, at least in this time frame. But it is ridiculous to make it seem as though the incredibly inherently violent action that the Russian government has taken in terms of like blowing up every fucking territory that they conquered, okay, that they're trying to physically, militarily annex, was actually done in an act of liberation. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. That's ridiculous. Like, oh yeah, they're doing it for liberation. Vladimir Putin said he's going to save Donbass. That's why he killed more people than since 2014, Green Men or like the Azov battalion blowing up and using artillery in LPR and DPR against like their own citizens. Like that's ridiculous. That's not a liberatory act in that situation. Okay? You're not liberating LPR and DPR. Yeah, it's giving free Palestine from Hamas. Exactly. Yeah, it's also like it's the same principle behind like you're so libbed out on Ukraine, I can't listen. I don't know how much of it is to protect your image and how much it is actually your view, but you give dog shit analysis on the topic. I don't think it's dog shit analysis. I think it's very fair analysis, which is why every liberal thinks I'm an Adolf Hitler lover. It's okay to say that a right-wing kleptocracy that unjustifiably invaded another nation, a nation that did have a lot of fucking nationalist sentiment, did the wrong thing by invading that nation, because now those nationalists are going to overtake the country. They're going to be the next leaders of Ukraine eventually. I hope that doesn't happen, but it feels like that is probably what's going to happen. And they all have fucking, they all have training, they have American weapons, not good for the future of Europe, not good for the future of any country, really. But Russia played a big role in that. There's also a reason why I look to China in terms of its foreign affairs, okay? Not its domestic affairs, but at least in terms of its foreign affairs and the way they handle foreign affairs, and believe that they do a much better job than the United States of America and Russia on that front. Like they are infinitely more restrained, and that's why they're fucking popping off. Affected cities will hit our economy, prices will go up. We're going to feel it because of taxes and stuff like that. It's going to be very difficult for us. I was just reading the article that's calling the foreign policy strat the reverse Kissinger to align Russia to weaken China. Makes sense, but seems futile because Sleeping Dragon has awoken and just further alienating the U.S. Yeah, I think so. I think it's a silly strategy as well. I mean, that's my suspicion as well. it's ironic because it seemed like a 4chan thing initially when Vivek Ramaswamy was talking about it, and now and Tucker Carlson was talking about it, and now it seems like it's like government policy to basically turn around and try to do a Sino-Soviet split, but reverse. I just don't know if that's even remotely possible. The USSR did not have global trade was not where it's at in the time of USSR. The USSR did not have a network of trade that directly tied its existence to the existence of empire in the way that China has. China's economy is on an upwards trajectory and slated to beat out the United States economy by probably the end of this decade, if not earlier. And America's trajectory has obviously stagnated, or maybe even on a downward shift. Like this is a very, very different. This is a very different circumstance. So I don't know if I'm Russia, okay, the one thing Russia did, even if I were to remove myself from the morality of what Russia's actions were and try to figure out why Russia did what it did. It wanted to penetrate and show the rest of the world, specifically the global South and every other global leader, that America had a dent in its armor and that Russia would poke through it militarily, saying like, no, the international rule-based order is gone. Gone are the days where America is the world police. We have nukes. They have nukes too. Guess what? We can do whatever the fuck we want to whichever country we want to. And it's one of the only countries that is one of the only great powers, if you want to call it that is like willing to combat America, even by way of proxies, right? So like that's somewhat the goal here from Russia's perspective. But if that's their goal here, then why the fuck would they turn around and be like, all right, we're going to separate ourselves from China. We're going to separate ourselves from China and then join the American side, you know? I just don't think that is, because if that is the only logical reason for why Russia militarily invaded Ukraine, eastern Ukraine specifically, then they have no reason to try and split from China. They have no reason to split from China at all, especially looking at what China's trajectory is and looking at what America's trajectory is, especially because these guys have no ideological convictions, okay? China, even if they have an ideological project in terms of its domestic affairs, doesn't maintain some sort of global war against capitalism in even the way that like the USSR at times did, or even in the way that China under Mao did at a certain point. They don't do that. And the only thing holding these countries together in allegiance is just being fucked over by America and fucked over by the West. That's it. They are unironically, their position is unironically campist, I think, where they're just like, yeah, fuck America and everything America stands for, fuck the West and everything the West stands for. And if you close your eyes for a brief moment and try to understand the world from their perspective, it is a fairly understandable perspective to have. The Western powers destroyed the USSR and didn't just like humiliate the USSR. They literally materially destroyed the USSR, picked it apart for scraps. The people that are fucking in charge now were placeholders created by those who were in the KGB that had sympathies towards the West. And those guys still also kind of feel humiliated and still understandably feel mad. Like there was so much death and destruction in the aftermath of the dissolution of the USSR. Like these guys still have an understandable frustration against Western powers. They were there when it collapsed. They watched it happen. They'd made the most of it by stealing as many state resources as possible. And I don't think they let go of their hatred for the United States of America or Western powers in general, even if they themselves are capitalist, okay? So what holds these countries together is not dissimilar to the way that a secondary market has been formed because of American sanctions. The American sanctions regime has created a secondary market of trade around the world now, because if you sanction everybody, then you might as well be sanctioning yourself. And that's what's going on here. It's the same as like the resentment and the allegiances that you watch unfold around the globe. Let's get back to this now.
This was before Putin spoke, I should add. He said, look, it's pretty much clear from the silence that we're hearing from Russia that they're not interested in meaningfully engaging with peace, that they want this war to continue grinding on. I don't think that we can make that conclusion deductively from what President Putin said during his meeting, during his press conference with the Belarusian President Lukashenko. But it will be very interesting, I would say, Brianna and Boris, to hear later on, after all those meetings and conversations with Trump's envoy Witkoff come to an end, whether there is a sort of plan of action for moving forward. Because, again, Putin had left that pretty ambiguous. He said maybe he would talk to President Trump in the coming days. None of that giving any sense of urgency that this is an issue that is going to be addressed and clarified and put into practice in the near future as the U.S. had hoped.
David, I wonder what you make of the timing here, that the NATO Secretary General meeting with Donald Trump. We're set to hear from them directly in just moments, as we're hearing Vladimir Putin say sort of yes to this deal, but also no.
So the timing of Secretary General Rutte showing up is a little bit coincidental. I don't think anybody knew when they scheduled that this would also be the day that you'd be sending Steve Witkoff into Moscow and so forth. I think yes, but is exactly the right answer, and Clarissa had this just right. Putin's in a tough spot here. He can't be seen as the one party who's saying, I won't do a ceasefire. And yet, a ceasefire is not in his interest right now while they're taking back Russian territory that the Ukrainians had seized and while he thinks he's on the march. The second problem he's got is that he's concerned that the ceasefire will be something he can't get out of. And what he really wants is, if there is a long-term ceasefire, to have a number of different issues, that Ukraine can't enter NATO, that along the way, Russia will be able to resolve what they call their long historic issues, which is essentially that Ukraine is a part of Russia. So he's a little afraid of being jammed, and I think you're seeing him wiggle his way through.
Yeah, and I wonder what you think about what you're hearing of that, especially considering this idea, the Kursk piece of this, where he says it's not clear how the situation would develop in Kursk and elsewhere if a ceasefire was implemented. That development in Kursk of Russia taking back that territory is something that happened since the U.S. suspended, it's now been reinstated, but suspended military aid to the Ukrainians. So in a way, there's almost this cycle. The U.S. takes an action, we see Russia taking back Kursk, and now that seems to be dissuading them in at least one of these elements from wanting to get on board.
Well, they haven't completely taken Kursk back, but they've almost got all the territory back.
That's right. They're saying it's the vast majority of it,
yeah.
right?
But what I'm watching for is how will Trump react to not the no, but the explanations beyond, where Trump said, he accepts the concept of a ceasefire, but it was translated from the Russian as with nuances. And then his spokesperson and others have filled in some of those nuances that they need to see a new administration in Ukraine. They need to see the world community recognize their annexation of 4 sections of eastern Ukraine that they don't completely even control right now. The list goes on and on. So my question will be, how is Trump going to respond to that? Will he be convinced by Putin's arguments as he has in the past? And I suspect Putin doesn't want to have those full-throated arguments until he's face-to-face with Trump, so he can explain in a reasonable manner, you can't expect us to do a ceasefire and still have a standing Ukrainian army that could attack Kursk at any time.
It does lend itself to Trump's sort of political history. The rare vision that he's held politically his entire political life is that other countries are ripping off the United States. Right. He points to NATO and says that. He points to Canada and says that, European allies as well. How does that play politically now that he's actually pursuing that as a policy?
Well, what's interesting is that in theory, you would think the United States public appreciates NATO, right? They understand that NATO protects us. However, reality is that these folks are also hurting at home. They're also seeing their friends being rounded up who have lived in their neighborhoods for many, many years. They're seeing a chaotic country right now. They're seeing the federal government being cut, people losing jobs. Then they look over at NATO and say, why isn't NATO paying their 2% of GDP? Why are we doing that? Look at my family right now that is hurting. So politically, it plays well for Donald Trump. The reality is way down the road, I mean, talk to Kim or David, and they will tell you if we don't have the United States and NATO together, then we are in big trouble.
And Clarissa, I wonder, especially as we hear Putin saying that they have to look at the root causes of the crisis, which of course we've heard before, one of those being the current Ukrainian government, we should say.
My theory on this is very clear. In order for capitalism to continue, well, this is not my theory, this is Lenin. But in order for capitalism to exist, you have to constantly seek out new vectors of profit. And in order to continue doing that, you have to dominate the global south, imperialism. Imperialism is a necessity for capitalism to continue. Okay? My theory, beyond plagiarizing Lenin, is that in order for American capitalism and American imperialism to continue, the American media has to sometimes manufacture consent for wars, but more significantly than that, pull back on doing any sort of propaganda or any sort of talk about wars at all. And because imperialism happens out there, Americans don't necessarily think about that. They don't think about the bounties of empire. They don't think about the benefits that they get as being a part of the labor aristocracy, right? Because for those of you who don't know, labor aristocracy just simply means that like there's hyper exploitation happening in the global south, and that is the reason why you can get a fucking t-shirt for $5. Okay? Now, that is the reason why America as a nation is an incredibly violent one. But Americans themselves, without recognizing the empire that keeps this country materially wealthy in the ways that it does, is always on the background. It's never in the forefront. We never think about the consequences of these actions. So Americans themselves can feel like they are a peaceful nation. That's why I think a lot of liberals, a lot of people on Globe Twitter, a lot of people who are pro-NATO are actually more honest about their selfish desires to continue wars around the world and to maintain NATO, because they recognize that it plays a major role in their comfortable existence. Why are you saying please? What? Oh, is there a new emote? Oh, you guys are so stupid. Anyway, but this also presents a unique opportunity because Americans don't think about global war all that much and how it factors into their day-to-day existence all that much, and the benefits that global war gives Americans in terms of like how cheap certain goods are. You can actually convince them that permanent war is bad. And that's precisely the reason why a guy like Donald Trump can come in and portray himself as a peaceful dove. That's the advantage here, that like the majority of Americans see themselves as peaceful people of hating war. And especially as material conditions worsen here, then you can make an even stronger, more convincing argument that we probably shouldn't be spending all this money overseas and we should be spending it on ourselves. Now, of course, Donald Trump is lying about that because he will continue doing wars all around the globe, obviously. But that's my position on the matter, on why Americans are like so anti-NATO. And that's partially because they just don't recognize that, you know, NATO, albeit a very violent force, is what allows America to continue dominating the planet.
That is something that he's looking at as the root cause of the crisis. He wants Zelensky to go. How will it be received in Ukraine if what we hear from Trump is oh, but look, Russia didn't say no?
I think that it is no exaggeration to say that the Ukrainians have been through an emotional roller coaster over the past few weeks with everything that happened between Zelensky and Trump in the Oval Office. I think that there was a huge amount of relief and even triumph, honestly, coming out of those meetings in Jeddah, that it seemed like the relationship was back on track, that it seemed like Ukraine could take control of the narrative again and essentially say, listen, we are not the obstacle to peace here. We are ready for it. The onus is now on Russia. And I think there will be some serious disappointment and even some eye-rolling if President Trump takes Putin completely at his word and doesn't apply some rigorous skepticism to what is going on here. And I think also, frankly, if we're being honest, the Ukrainians would like to see a wedge driven between this sort of kinship that we have seen between President Putin and President Trump. They would like to see President Trump get exasperated with President Putin and lose his patience even with President Putin. And it remains to be seen what the response will be. I mean, I just heard some tidbits from earlier where it said that President Trump had interpreted Putin's comments as being promising. So unlikely that we're necessarily going to see that wedge anytime soon. But the Ukrainians understand in principle that the most important thing here going forward through trials and tribulations is to keep that relationship on track. I spoke to one former minister. He said we need this relationship to be less about emotion and more about common sense.
Yeah, they did the NATO Andy retort.
The UN says Israel has...
They did the NATO Andy retort by saying, oh, this will offer Ukraine temporary respite, and we can't have that. Ceasefire is bullshit. God, they are so fucking Israel coded. It's not even funny. Jesus Christ. It's just like, it is just straight up Israel shit, okay? Aren't know any, what? Israel but poor? I mean, what is Israel without America? Get out of here. Don't fucking say Russia is poor while comparing it to fucking Israel and then saying Israel is rich. That's a crazy fucking comparison. Anyway, Zelensky. Now we have all heard from Russia, very predictable, very manipulative words from Putin in response to the idea of silence on the front. He is actually preparing a refusal as of now. Putin, of course, is afraid to tell President Trump directly that he wants to continue this war and wants to kill Ukrainians. Come on, Mike Zelensky is so good. You're fucking nuts. I think my Zelensky is very good. Anyway, Zelensky said he's on board with the ceasefire, and then predictably Vladimir Putin said, nah, never mind, we don't actually want it. And that's precisely where we're at. I don't know how Donald Trump is going to fucking claw himself out of this situation. But we're going to move on to domestic affairs right now.
Officials have arrested.
We're going to be talking about the Jewish protesters arrested after storming Trump Tower.
Nearly 100 people after a crowd of protesters stormed the lobby of Trump Tower in New York City.
And then we'll talk about how the Democrats caved. I know. Spoiler alert, I know. I fucking hate them.
They're demanding the release of Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian activist, a graduate student at NYU, or rather at Columbia University. He is at risk of being deported after he helped lead protests against the war in Gaza at the university last year. Homeland Security officials have accused Khalil of being a Hamas sympathizer. Let's go right now outside live at Trump Tower with CNN's Omar Jimenez, who is on the scene. Omar, give us the latest.
Yeah, so Boris, about 100 people were arrested as part of this protest that took place inside Trump Tower behind me on multiple levels, 2 different levels of that main sort of lobby entrance to the tower here, as we understand from police. And they were protesting on behalf of Mahmoud Khalil. Jewish Voice for Peace was the group that was leading these particular protests that we saw. And when we first got to the scene, we saw dozens of protesters in zip ties being loaded onto buses, where they were taken to central booking, as we understand, from New York police. But the chants that we heard from supporters that even gathered on the outside of some of these barriers that police put in place to keep crowds sort of at bay were things like fight Nazis, not students, and protesting on behalf, again, of Khalil, who is still being held in ICE custody as those legal proceedings play out as well. We spoke to one of the organizers of Jewish Voice for Peace about why they wanted to come out here. And to them, they said they did not want the First Amendment entrenched on, which is what they believe Khalil was doing over the course of leading some of the protests we saw out of Columbia University. But also they wanted to show solidarity from the Jewish people as well. As those were the words that one of the organizers told me as we spoke to her, as some of her protesters were being loaded onto these buses. There were no violent incidents in regards to the arrest themselves. Once they were taken into police custody, there did not seem to be any resistance. We did not hear of any resistance.
This is awesome, and it's a good thing. I think civil disobedience and getting arrested, especially for groups like Jewish Voice for Peace, is an incredibly important tactic. I think it's the appropriate thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do. And I think that they are incredibly brave for putting their bodies on the line like this and using their privilege. Okay? The reason why I say that is because a lot of this conversation in the Western world revolves around how this is a Muslim versus Jew situation. Okay? This kind of stuff gets reported on by mainstream news, and it educates people who are maybe living in the rest of the country, maybe not around Jews, for example, that this is not actually a Jew versus Muslim situation at all, and that it's not like a scary terrorist that was arrested in this process. It reinforces that reality that this is about people's collective conscience and has nothing to do with like their ethnic background or, you know, centuries old Islam versus Judaism battles or whatever the fuck. It shows solidarity. It reframes the conversation away from the ridiculous propaganda that you see from mainstream media. It plays a very important role that forces people to address the root cause of the issue and the lies that right-wingers tell about this issue, or the lies that Zionists tell about this issue. Doing it at Trump Tower is great because everybody hates Trump. All the liberals hate Trump. This will cause them to also, look at the protests in a positive manner, like liberals who might be somewhat conflicted on this stuff, on the issue of Zionism, because at the end of the day, public discourse and public awareness is still fairly consequential, and you have to fucking bring normies on board. It's not the entire way, okay? It's not the only way. It's not the only method, and I will not discount other methods. Having said that, this is a fairly significant way to reframe the narrative back to the truth, to take the reins of this narrative and reshape it so that people understand what is actually going on, what the dynamic truly looks like. There is always a multitude to complex problems, especially structural and especially systematic issues that exist and persist. There is always going to be multiple different avenues of attack, pressure, all the way from militancy down to peaceful civil disobedience, all the way down to like broad awareness spreading campaigns. And that's why this is a good thing. Okay, this is a great thing. It's a wonderful thing, and I think that it's the right thing to do. It is the appropriate thing to do. It's the moral thing to do.
From police as well, but definitely a protest that grew to over 100, as we understand, from both organizers and police, took place inside Trump Tower, organized in just a matter of hours and happened very quickly. As we understand from a law enforcement source, the protesters initially walked into the building with jackets on, and then when they undid their jackets, it revealed the red shirts that represented the Jewish Voice for Peace. But again, a protest that resulted in about 100 arrests, no serious charges expected outside of things like trespassing of that nature. But again, a moment where organizers tell us they wanted their voices to be heard in support of Mahmoud Khalil.
Omar Jimenez live for us in Manhattan. Thank you so much, Omar. Brianna?
Joining us now, CNN senior national security analyst Juliette Kayyem. So, Juliette, over 120 people entering Trump Tower, a law enforcement official telling CNN at the height of this. Tell us a little bit about that security setup there now that it's not Trump's official residence.
Yeah, so I'm surprised by this. I would have assumed that just given the public nature of Trump's commercial activities, it would be very difficult to have 100 people come. It was clearly a secretively planned protest, and they were arrested.
I knew it was going to happen. May or may not know some people that were there and may or may not have gotten arrested. Wasn't that big of a secret. But, she's right. It was it was planned ahead of time, deliberately.
Arrested as they should be. They trespassed, but they were also nonviolent. And this country has a long tradition of nonviolent protest. We'll see what happens in the courtroom or what's decided about them. I have no doubt that there will be increased surveillance and security around Trump's commercial entities. And this is the interesting thing about Trump, without getting into whether he should or shouldn't do it. And we saw this with Elon Musk with the Teslas. Because they've broken down the distinction between their public roles and their private commercialization, monetization rules, you are seeing these protests touch them in their commercial space. We saw this with Elon Musk and attacks on Tesla, as well as now this protest. Donald Trump cannot close down Trump Tower. It's a commercial space. It's a residential space. And so they are sort of dealing with, I think, in some ways, the consequences of that merger of monetization and policy and the First Amendment.
So these arrests, charging people with obstructing government administration.
By the way, these people are very openly, unapologetically, and deliberately showcasing that they are Jewish. Very little distinctions are being made, very little commentaries being made about that fact. And I have to assume that a certain point is got to be deliberate. They barely mentioned it in the beginning, where they were like, oh yeah, Jewish Voice for Peace is the group. And then that's it. Like, them being Jewish is a part of this process, is a part of this protest. It is like an important part of the protest. That's why it's called Jewish Voice for Peace. You know what I mean? That's why they put it on their fucking signage. And it's not because of Jewish exceptionalism or whatever. It's because in order to break through the pre-established narratives surrounding Islamophobia, surrounding the way to normalize or obfuscate the truth about Israel by claiming that it's directly tied and associated with Judaism around the world, and certainly in America, is by doing shit like this. Okay?
For failing to move when the dispersal order came because the location is private property, and in certain cases resisting arrest. Tell us about those charges.
So those charges it's going to depend on each individual and what they did at the moment. So there's recordings, there's going to be police reports. Do they have past criminal activity? For some of these people, it may be a fine, community service, a guilty plea, and nothing much happens. I have no doubt Donald Trump will ratchet it up, at least publicly, in terms of his criticism of this kind of activity. The interesting thing about this is this was organized by a Jewish group. So the narrative of, sort of pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian equals pro-Hamas Arabs that is often used, and it was used in Mahmoud's case. Khalil's.
Why don't you say the quiet part out loud, bro? What the fuck? He's like, yeah, normally we would be like, if they're Arabs, they love Al-Qaeda, but they're Jews, so we can't say that. That's insane. Normally we'd be like, hey, they love Hamas. Look at these fucking dirty Arabs. They love Hamas. But when they're Jews, we can't say that. It makes it harder to say that. Oh my Lord. Ay, ay, ay. What a fucking insane moment of honesty right there.
Case is harder to make against Jewish organizations. I have no doubt that that's why they did it, because there's great diversity within the Jewish American population about what's going on, divisions amongst them. And I think that's a very important part of this narrative of who it was organized by and why.
All right, Juliette Kayyem, thank you so much for taking us through that. And actually, what do you expect moving forward? As we heard, obviously the security folks who were there had called for additional units. Do you think that's probably something they're going to have in place temporarily for a while?
Yes, I think so. I think as this case in particular touches on, New York specifically, because it's Columbia, and a very animated community in New York amongst this sort of, I would say, the Israeli and constituencies. They're either
She said Palestinian, but it got censored out, but not on purpose.
There's diversity within those constituencies, as I was saying, is going to get played out in New York, and that's where a number of Trump's properties are. And this is a difficult issue for the NYPD because of the commercial demands of Trump Towers. He needs them to be open. You can't close them. I mean, those are, as you know, those are retail spaces on the top, on a variety of floors. There are people come in and out, and that's the commercial part of it. And we've never dealt with this before because we've never had a president who had commercial activities consistent with or parallel with his political position, President of the United States, or in Elon Musk's case, the selling of Teslas. That merger is a challenge for public safety because commercialization is open. You can't close it down, but we do need to protect people within the towers and protect the rights of those who want to go into these places or buy a Tesla or whatever else. And I think we're not quite built for that. I think there'll be more aggressive security by the NYPD around Trump properties. But just to take a step back, there's a long tradition of protests. There's a long tradition of arrest and trespass around that. It sounds like that's what happened. We're not hearing about violence. We're not hearing about terrorism. This is not, burning cars or looting or anything. This is a First Amendment activity that was a trespass. There should be a punishment that will be determined on a case-by-case basis. But I don't think that, this is not one of those things where it's like domestic terrorism or anything like that, though I highly believe that Donald Trump wants to increase the focus around this arrest for reasons that have almost nothing to do with anti-Semitism or even immigration at this stage.
We are here.
If they mention that these people are Jewish at all on Fox News, they will do my favorite thing that I love seeing, which is, I call it Gentile confidence, where a bunch of the most Christian looking motherfuckers will sit there and be like, yeah, these Jews are bad. They're not real Jews, actually. We should put them in concentration camps, actually. And it's like the most golden retriever looking ass blonde lady you've ever seen in your life saying that. And you're like, how does this not ring any alarm bells? You're not Jewish. Just like a shocking display of overt anti-Semitism. If they mentioned that the group's called Jewish Voice for Peace at all.
Protesting against the defamation and deprivation of Mahmoud by Donald Trump. I don't really understand what Donald Trump's intentions are, and I won't speak for them, but I will say that the impact is causing a lot of harm to people who are asking for peace.
So there's that. Katie Pavlich joins us with her reaction, but first let's get an update from the New York City Police, from the chief of the department, John Schell. Chief, good to have you here today. What can you tell us about what the law enforcement in New York confronted today? Did these people go peacefully? What was it like in there?
So, Martha, how you doing? I'll put this on a timeline for you. Roughly about 11:30, we had 150 protesters in small groups of 7 in different times coming both entrances of Trump Towers in civilian clothes. Once they were inside, they took off their clothes, and they had matching red shirts with different sayings supporting
That's right. It was very fucking
Palestine.
scary.
We know this group very well, and this is their MO. Within 10 minutes of that, notifications went out, and we responded. And once I got here as the incident commander, the goal was real simple for us: secure the perimeter of Trump Towers, get with Secret Service and Trump Security, make sure everyone in the building is secure. And once we had that, this is a public access area. So we had to get permission from Trump Security, which we did, to make these arrests. We gave warnings, and ultimately, of the roughly 150 that we hear, 98 chose to stay in the cafeteria area. We made those arrests. Those arrests would be for violation, trespass, but also obstructing government administration and resisting arrest, which are Class A misdemeanors due to the fact that we had to carry them out. I would say from start to finish, This was a 2-hour operation making 98 arrests, and there were no incidents in terms of anyone getting hurt, property damage. You know, the NYPD, like you mentioned October 7th earlier, we've handled over 5,000 of these protests in all different shapes and sizes, and our professionalism training showed through today. And like I said, 2 hours, we got this cleared up.
Do you have any idea who this group is, or who pays for these T-shirts? Who organized it all? Any idea?
Yeah, we're well versed in this group. I don't want to give them any advertisement. We've dealt with them before. We know what their MO is, if you will. And again, I just can't stress enough.
Just say their name, bro. Why won't you say it? Just say the name of the group. What is it? You're very familiar with them, huh? I doubt that you wouldn't be out openly talking about it if it was like fucking, I don't know, Arab Muslims for peace or some shit. You'd be like, yeah, I'll say it. It's fucking Hamas. It's fucking Hamas. That's right. These guys love. Yeah. Roach Man suggesting that they were paid. Yeah. Jews controlled this protest. Is that what he said? Yeah. Seems like Jews are paying for this protest.
That in 2 hours we got this cleared up. 98 people. We had to carry people up escalators and walk them out. It's not the easiest thing to do in the world, but our training and
oh my God. I feel so bad for you, sir. Jesus Christ.
Professionalism through our cops. We do this very well in New York City.
Indeed you do. Thank you so much, Chief Shell. Always good to see you. Thank you for what you do to keep the people of New York City safe. And as you say, 5,000 protests of this kind in the past year or so since October 7th is extraordinary. Thank you so much, Chief. Good to see you.
Have a great day, Martha.
You too. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News.
Begin with. Interesting. Not one mention of the name of the organization. Oh, I saw this. I saw this insane shit.
So, but why did you vote for Trump?
She asked who funded them. Yeah.
With that protest in
Let's continue with this, and then I'll watch that video because this is one of the most insane videos I've ever seen.
Midtown, police say about 150 people staged a sit-in inside Trump Tower this afternoon.
98 people have been arrested for various charges, and the protests come on the heels of the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil. He's the pro-Palestinian Columbia graduate detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This happened over the weekend. Lisa Rosner is live outside of Trump Tower right now with more. Lisa.
Well, Alan and Christine, things are.
You housed the criminal? Yeah, I know. Damn, 2 minutes ago. That's crazy. Also, Columbia University says it expelled or suspended some students who took over a campus building during protest last spring and had temporarily revoked the diplomas of some students who have since graduated. Yeah. In the United States of America, if you offend the apartheid state that we have unconditional loyalty and support to, you can't graduate from a college you paid fucking $300,000 to. We won't let you. It's just funny because, like, they'll claim they're doing this because they're scared that the Trump administration is going to revoke, like, grants. But it doesn't matter. Like, they're going to keep clamping. The real reason is because of their donors, to be fair. Their top priority is the alumni. And it's clear that, like, there's at least enough alumni with influence that are insanely pro-Israel.
Refuse to believe they're all students. They're coming from, wherever they're coming from with pre-printed T-shirts. There's some money behind this, Lisa, and there's no doubt about that because we've lived through this before. So this is what open borders potentially can bring you. I can't believe everybody.
Bro, come on, say it. Say who funds the protest. Say the Jews funded the protest. Come on, say it. Oh shit, look at Noah. He's right there. Look at that. They should have never let this criminal back out on the streets. Yet another terrorist that I've had on the broadcast. When will this Hassan guy stop constantly having terrorists on his stream?
Everybody's here on a student visa and or a green card in the crowd, or that they're all American citizens. I think we have to find that out. And where it is applicable, as Ari has said, get them out. I refuse to believe they're all students. They're coming from.
That's so funny. Look at that. I'm gonna screenshot this. Hold on. I'm gonna post this. That's funny. That's a good photo. I'll give photo credit to William Turton. Oh shit, I can't tag him in it. Oh, he follows me. I can't believe Noah tricked you by hiding his radical beliefs. dude, not every Jewish guy you see on TV is your friend. Come on, that's racist. That's what you think. Yeah, they are. They're having a hard time. You can tell. You can tell that the Republicans are having a hard time covering this shit. You know, because like the shirts very clearly say "Jewish Voice for Peace," not in our name. You know, and the people that are being arrested are Jewish. Like, it's difficult. It plays a role in this, in the narrative that you want to craft as like, this is a entirely Arab Muslim thing. Okay. And this isn't to say that like, I mean, Islamophobia is very real. Okay. Trust me. I know personally. Okay. But because Islamophobia is so fucking real, like a lot of the media narratives around this stuff revolve around this being like a purely Muslim issue or whatever, and they set it up that way so they can easily undermine it. Now, there's two different ways to go about it. One, to combat the Islamophobia directly, but also simultaneously explain to people that it's not like a Muslim Jew issue at all. It's an issue for those with a conscience versus those who are inhumane barbarians.
Are calm now, but it was a chaotic couple of hours inside Trump Tower. The NYPD says among the charges in these arrests is trespassing and obstructing governmental administration. The NYPD says around 150 people entered Trump Tower in plain clothes, but once inside, they revealed protest shirts and signs and staged a sit-in.
Within 10 minutes, we started responding here from the police department. Within 40 minutes, 50 minutes, we started making arrests.
Police carried out demonstrators like Josh Dubnow.
We have a right to express our opinions, but I refuse to allow my fear to stop me from expressing my First Amendment rights.
The demonstration organized by the group Jewish Voice for Peace, which is an anti-Zionist Jewish group.
You're seeing the Trump regime weaponize anti-Semitism to attack freedom of speech.
The Anti-Defamation League says it does not represent the mainstream Jewish community. Attorney Gerard Filitti is an activist with the group End Jew Hatred.
The issue is not students saying that they support Palestine, but it's rather students taking action, blocking Jewish students from accessing parts.
Oh, God. They're not blocking Jewish students from accessing certain parts of the campus. Shut the fuck up. Suck my dick. Why are these people still oh, my God. Oh! I mean, it's like, look at this. I mean, obviously, look. This motherfucker's got a CIA mug behind him. No shit. God damn, dude. I hate. Lying is OP. Lying is so OP. Lying is so OP. It's just like, there's no interest in the truth. The Democrats, liberal media, everyone in fucking positions of power have unironically gone along with this like lie over and over and over and over and over and over again. That it has basically become the established truth. It doesn't fucking matter. Everyone imagine the barricades law, okay? They never blocked fucking Jewish students from entering their classrooms. You are out of your fucking mind, okay? The protests were led in many parts by Jewish students. What are you talking about? How do you not understand that this is a very delicate and very deliberate way to frame the issue as like the protests are anti-Semitic when it's not? It's anti-genocide. Stop being a fucking baboon. Stop being a moron. Stop being a sucker. Stop being a rube. The hell is wrong with you? Who actually is there that you know that can confirm they aren't? I was there at UCLA campus. I also interviewed people that fucking led the protests at Columbia University on this fucking broadcast. I know many of these people. Many of them are in this community. What the fuck are you saying? A big part of what I try to do is to basically break through the messaging that mainstream media is trying to desperately manufacture, break through the consent that the media is trying to desperately manufacture, the lies that it fucking says. Careful to say it's a community of terrorists. It is a community of terrorists. Yes, it is. We are. What do you mean? Trump thinks being anti-Israel is terrorism. So yeah, I guess I'm a fucking terrorist then. Get the fuck out of here. It doesn't mean anything. The word is meaningless. You understand? You go to a fucking anti-Israel rally, you're a terrorist. Yeah, you draw a dick on a Tesla, you're a terrorist. Just wait. Just wait until all of these other wonderful, fun things are considered terrorism and acts of terrorism. Meanwhile, yeah, the RNC unironically announced themselves at a rally and said that we are all domestic terrorists. Like they actually do domestic terrorism. Peaceful protest is not terrorism. Standing against genocide is not fucking terrorism. Genocide is terrorism. Standing against genocide is a courageous act, and it is what everyone should be doing. Troy Edgar, second in command at the Department of Homeland Security, on Mahmoud Khalil. Is there any criticism of the United States government? Is any criticism of the United States government a deportable offense? Like I said, if you go through the process and you're a student and you're here on a visa and you go through it at any point, is any criticism of the government a deportable offense? Question again. Let me put it this way, Michael. Imagine if we came in and filled out the form and said, I want a student visa. They asked him, what are you going to do here? And he says, I'm going to go and protest. We would never have let him into this country. Martin says, is protesting a deportable offense? You're focused on protest. I'm focused on the visa process. He went through a legal process. They are doing the thing that I was trying to describe to Asmongold when he just simply did not understand. As it stands, there is no rule in the rule book that says you can fucking deport someone for exercising their First Amendment rights. Okay? Non-citizen, citizen alike. That's not a thing. Okay? That's not a thing. You can, however, waive the visa of a person if you believe that they are interested in protest, or you can deny them entry into the country. But once you're in the country, it's over. You get the same protections as everybody else. Okay? What these guys are trying to do is play fast and loose with the pre-existing law that is already stupid, by the way, that like, oh, we can waive your visa up until the point of entry into this country if you fucking say that you're going to protest or whatever. That's ridiculous, okay? Not only is that ridiculous, but also that would require a tremendous amount of surveillance, to figure out like, whether or not someone is demonstrating Palestinian sympathies and shit like that. That's insane. Okay? The very fact that we are discussing this as though it is just simply a back and forth, okay, is terrifying. And the very fact that people don't understand it, the very fact that people don't understand how gross of a violation of people's human rights this is, and how this desecrates the Constitution of the United States and the free speech protections it affords everyone unconditionally, is shocking, genuinely shocking. We are officially directly in the throes of fascism. We're not one step removed from fascism. We're not bouldering towards fascism. This is fascism. If they can retroactively apply visa waiver denials to people that have already become legal permanent residents, they can denaturalize people too. This sets an insane precedent. And if they can retroactively decide and denaturalize people, they can deport people. They can deport American citizens. Why can they? And they can do it for virtually any reason they choose to do so. As long as you fucking call someone a terrorist, you're good to go. And considering that the Trump administration has talked about vandalizing Teslas as an act of terror, trust me, it's coming. You are a fucking moron if you don't recognize this. I am not saying, I'm not like I'm not exaggerating. I'm not freaking out for no fucking reason, okay? This is truly unique new levels of depravity for the American government. They are moving towards denaturalization. If they can revoke someone's green card over, I felt like it because I didn't like what he was saying, then they can do that by denaturalizing people as well. Yes, I'm not fear-mongering. Thank you. I was forgetting the word. I am not fear-mongering when I say this. I am looking at the logical conclusion by making assessments off of what the administration is saying and also their proclivity to follow through on some of these promises that they've made on the campaign trail, whether it be Project 2025 and its implementation, or whether it be directly denaturalizing people. Oh, this is Nazi shit. This is straightforward Nazi shit. Okay? Here's the audio of this back and forth. The transcript has been posted here, but if you're going to listen to this exchange, unwilling to answer, the Deputy Secretary Troy Edgar unwilling to answer a simple question.
Is any criticism of the Israeli government a deportable offense?
Like I said, I think that at this point, when he was entered into the country on a student visa, At any point, we can go through and evaluate what his status is, and the Secretary of State
Is any criticism of the United
right.
States government a deportable offense?
Yeah, this is not hyperbole. I am telling you exactly what is going on, and I'm telling you where this is going to go. Understand the danger in front of us right now, okay? Understand the danger in front of us right now. And our institutions that are supposed to be, at least to a certain degree, interested in upholding, peaceful education for its students and and maintain some semblance of normalcy, are completely fucking caving. They are caving to the right-wing reactionary neo-Nazi fucking administration and its Nazi-ass policies. That's where we're at. We are there. We're there. Donald Trump also earlier today talked about how he wants the Supreme Court to allow him to end birthright citizenship. Again, directly a violation of the Constitution. This is constitutionally protected. Okay? He wants to reverse the 14th Amendment. That's where we're at.
Like I said, if you go through the process and you're a student and you're here on a visa, and you go through at any point.
Is any criticism of the government a deportable offense?
It is shocking how much these guys will make it seem as though Israel has the American government by the fucking balls, dude. Truly. This is some real fucking neo-Nazi anti-Semitic conspiracy shit, the way these dudes operate. You're the deputy secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and you're like, yeah, if you criticize Israel, you'll get deported. That's insane. If you criticize a foreign nation, you'll get fucking deported. Holy shit.
It's like I said, as a student, he comes to the United States on a student visa, applies. Well, let me put it this way, Michelle. Imagine if he came in and filled out the form and said, I want a student visa. They asked him, what are you going to do here? And he said,
he was
I'm
a
going
student.
to go and protest and
so
join
is protest
an
a deportable
activity.
event?
We would never have let him into the country.
Is protesting a deportable offense?
Like I said, you're focused on protesting. I'm focused on it's a visa process. He went through a legal process, came into the country.
Are you saying that he lied on his application? He's a lawful permanent resident married to an American citizen.
I think if he would have declared he's a terrorist, we would have never let him in.
And
dog, what are you saying? He didn't do terrorism. You're just racistly saying he's a fucking terrorist. That is not, oh my God. Oh my fucking God. Dude, we're no longer just black bagging random Muslims that were in Pakistan and claiming that they're fucking terrorists and torturing them. We're just black bagging American legal permanent residents, and not even for any sort of tangible association or loose association, because I'm not saying that during the war on terror, the American government didn't literally fucking arrest innocent Muslims, innocent Arabs, who were also legal permanent residents for the suspicion of being terrorists or whatever. We're just straight up openly saying now, you don't even have to have any sort of associations whatsoever. We're outwardly saying you're a fucking terrorist because you hurt Israel's feelings, and we're going to fucking black bag you and deport you. It is insane. Oh my God. The third wave of Red Scare is upon us. And this time it's basically anything and everything. It's being built around the pre-existing network of combating anti-Semitism, which is not actually to combat anti-Semitism at all, but is the silent dissent against Israel, and using that as an entry point into overriding some of the most important, if not the most important fucking constitutional protections that the government offers to every single person. This is terrifying. It's happening in front of our eyes. It's unfolding in front of our eyes. And there's still a bunch of dumb motherfuckers who don't recognize it and, dare I say, entertain it and celebrate it.
What did he engage in that constitutes terrorist activity?
Michelle, have you watched it on TV? It's pretty clear.
No, it isn't. Well, explain it to those of us who have not, or perhaps others have not. What exactly did he do?
Well, I think it's clear, or we shouldn't be talking about it. The reality is that if you watch and see what he's done on the university.
Do you not know? Are you telling us that you're not aware? You don't know what he did? That
no,
it's a portable offense?
No, I find it interesting that you're not aware.
I think you could explain it to us. I think others would like to know exactly what the offenses are, what the propaganda was that you allege, what the activity was that you allege. Well, perhaps we can talk again and you can give us more details about this. And that's Department of Homeland Security.
It's alarming that they're this incompetent, by the way. It is alarming that they are this fucking incompetent. What did he engage in that constitutes terrorist activity? I mean, Michael, if you watch it on TV, it's pretty clear. No, it isn't. Well, explain it to those of us who are perhaps others have not. What exactly did you do? Well, I think it's clear, or we wouldn't be talking about it. I mean, the reality is that you watch and see what he's done on the university. Do you not know? Are you telling us that you're not aware? I find it interesting that you're not aware. Oh, Michelle, not Michael. Sorry. It's just... they're bouldering through this, and institutions like Columbia are also caving to this pressure. They're caving to donor pressure, and they're caving to outside government pressure because their funds, their grants are being removed. If they do this for, right now they're doing it for Israel, okay? They're doing it for Israel. That's just what this is, okay? What makes you think tomorrow they're not going to do this for, I don't know, gay students, trans students, black students, anything they want? What makes you think they're not going to do this because you have too much DEI, for example? That's also an intentionally vague definition. You're a fucking moron if you think that that's not going to happen. I don't think they're caving. This is what they want. No, they're caving. Some of them want this, but they're caving at the end of the day. Because even if you personally want this, if you are in charge of an institution like Columbia University, you are smart enough to recognize that this is not where it's going to stop. Okay, so in the interest of self-preservation, you're supposed to fight back. What the fuck are we doing? They are unironically too stupid to recognize that this administration eventually is going to come after them too in ways that they do care about. So you have to put a fucking stop to this right at the tippy top, right at the moment where a new precedent is at the precipice of being created. The U.S. government is adopting the point of view of the Israeli government wholesale here, wherein supporting Palestine is automatically support for Hamas and everything that could possibly be legally and criminally downwind of that. That's it. So what? How did he support Hamas? What exactly did he do? For the record, even if he fucking supported Hamas, that's not a deportable offense, for the record. Saying, if he ran around saying, oh, I love Hamas, Hamas is the greatest fucking thing that has ever happened, that is not a deportable offense, okay? What the fuck are we doing here? What are we doing here? He didn't do that, but even if he did, that's not a deportable offense. The fact that they went after a guy who didn't even do that, by the way, instead of a person that they could have found that did do that, or the fact that they went after someone who's a green card holder thinking initially that he had a student visa, shows me that they're also genuinely incompetent. So what's up? I thought there was a war against woke and war against cancel culture, a war that Donald Trump ended and won against free speech, that he was going to be the protector of free speech. This is the most severe restriction on free speech that the American government has done in the past couple of decades. And let me tell you something, okay? The liberals absolutely set the stage for it. They arrested and oversaw the arrest of 3,500 student protesters under the Brandon administration. They kept saying, yeah, these guys are bad. They're anti-Semitic. They're terrorists over and over. And they smeared all these fucking student protesters. And look at where we're at now. You set the stage for it, and these guys fucking pounce. It's disgusting. It is disgusting. Oh. This is why I kept repeating to both Jank and everyone else that would listen that Kamala Harris's statements on these fucking protests were idiotic. You took ownership over this shit instead of just waving it away like a dummy. And look where we're at now. Look where we're at now. You have to fight. Okay? And even if there are protesters that say shit that like comes across as unhinged to the average person, why the fuck would you ever take ownership over it? What's wrong with you? Republicans never take ownership over it. People think because Mahmoud Khalil has a scary Arab name, or because he was a student activist leader that was anti-Israel, that like maybe he's an undesirable that will get hit with this, but it won't happen to them. That's what people falsely assume. You are wrong. Okay? You're wrong. You're out of your fucking mind. The bit Hassan isn't mentioning is that since 9/11 and before, Muslim political activity has always been viewed as a security threat. Since Muslims are viewed as terrorist sleeper agents, that's not new. To be Muslim in the U.S. necessitates a higher standing of unshaken loyalty to U.S. global interests. What? No, I know that. I know that. I don't know why you're explaining to me white supremacy and Islamophobia and the role that Islamophobia plays in like American society. I know that. As you also recognize, I know that from personal experience. I know that over the past year of relentless attacks against me, being of a Muslim background, constantly fucking saying that I'm an Islamist fundamentalist who wants to throw gay people off roofs, who wants to destroy America, a terrorist. We have to deplatform this terrorist. I know that from the very little pushback that people who say shit like that receive from communities that are ostensibly progressive. I'm talking about fucking Ethan Klein, by the way. Okay? It is insane that YouTube will never punish Ethan Klein for saying any and every fucking Muslim content creator that's pro-Palestine is actually a rabid terrorist. He gets to do that. He gets to do that every fucking day of the week. The comparison to this would literally be like me running around every day being like Ethan Klein is a part of the Jewish media apparatus or some shit. Okay? Can you imagine? That would be unimaginably anti-Semitic. How fast would I get fucking banned if I said that? Understandably, I would deserve that ban. This is precisely the reason why I stated time and time again correctly that anti-Semitism, while growing in popularity among the masses in the United States of America, partially because of Israel falsely conflating its actions with Judaism, is still institutionally regarded as unacceptable and inappropriate. Islamophobia is not regarded in that way. You can be as Islamophobic as you fucking want to be, and no one, and I mean no one, will look the other way. No one will turn around and go, what the fuck are you saying? This motherfucker compared me to Osama bin Laden, played a little game comparing me to Osama bin Laden, Twitcher terrorist. You know? Ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. That's precisely the reason why, in the aftermath of October 7, a fucking psychopathic landlord who saw the day of jihad happening potentially stabbed a 7-year-old Muslim child who ran up to him to hug him. Okay? That's why there were Islamophobic attacks that actually ended up shooting and killing, or not shooting and killing, sorry, shooting and severely crippling, paralyzing a bunch of students in Vermont for the crime of wearing a keffiyeh. Islamophobic attacks are constant. Nobody ever fucking talks about it. There is a double standard here. That is the fucking reality. If you don't see that, I don't know what to tell you. It's fucking ridiculous. Meanwhile, the anti-Semitic incident that took place recently was a Jewish dude in fucking Florida assuming that Israeli tourists of Arab descent, Arab Jews, were actually pro-Palestinian. And the Arab Jews from Israel themselves thought the guy shooting at them was Palestinian. What a fucking insane situation. That doesn't cause anyone to go, wait a minute, what the fuck's going on? This is like deeply disturbed. Paranoid delusions are being entertained. Yeah. Meanwhile, people fucking turn around and they're like, I'm unsafe. You're black bagging pro-Palestinian protesters with a crime of fucking saying things that hurt Israel's feelings. And you still have motherfuckers being like, in the Upper East Side as a Jew, I feel so unsafe. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? What do you mean? What are you unsafe by? Pollen? Like, are allergies fucking acting out? Like, what do you mean you're unsafe in Manhattan? Ridiculous. Like, the paranoia of white people cannot be used as a reasonable, reasonable grounds to squash genuine protest against a fucking apartheid state. It's ridiculous.
parts of campus. When you're talking about globalizing the Intifada is known as specifically violence targeting Jews in Israel. So you are selectively discriminating against an identifiable group of people, which is, in this case, anti-Semitic.
This comes on the same day the Council on American Islam.
Please, it's not just white people. No, man. I'm talking about, when I say white people, I mean Jews as well, okay? I'm talking about, like, the most common thing that has existed in perpetuity in American history is white supremacy. White supremacy has made it so that white fears and white paranoia is more significant than like reasonable demands being made by non-white people, black people usually, okay? And the exact same thing is happening right now. The main difference here is that Jewish people are a minority and there are real anti-Semitic incidents. So it creates this like unique opportunity where even liberals and progressives who understandably don't want to come across as anti-Semitic, understandably care about not spreading anti-Semitism, are listening to a fear being like the paranoid fucking ramblings of a random college student being like, I got so scared because I saw a bunch of Jewish and Arab students and Muslim students protesting against fucking Israel. And then that's enough for the anti-terror squad to come in and bust people out. It's crazy. It's completely ridiculous. Yeah, it's a deliberate weaponization of victimhood. That's precisely what it is. It's being done at the behest of a fucking insane, rabid, violent apartheid regime doing a fucking genocide. After talking to Hamas, U.S. hostage negotiator Adam Baylor reportedly removed from position. There it is, dude. Benjamin Netanyahu sends his regards, you know?
Islamic Relations New York filed a lawsuit against Columbia University and the Congressional Committee on Education and Workforce. Plaintiffs are Khalil and 7 other students who say the school handing over student disciplinary records to that committee a few months ago violated the Family Education Rights Privacy Act.
Allowing Congress and institutions like Columbia and others to target you or someone else because of a viewpoint you hold is an epic danger to American values.
Columbia University said it does not comment on pending litigation. A rep for the Education Committee told me, in part, the lawsuit changes nothing. Our committee will continue its work to protect Jewish students and hold schools accountable. Now, coming up at 6 p.m., I speak with the attorney for Mahmoud Khalil, and she shares with me a little information about a phone call she had with him last night. We're live in Midtown. Lisa Rosner, CBS.
People really believe it's a big deal. Howie Mandel said he's scared when he goes out. What does one say to a Jewish person who hears that they're beating up Jews at UCLA? We are turning into England every moment, dude. Every fucking day that goes on, we are getting closer and closer to Britain status, England status. Okay? This was the psychotic delusions that you heard in London about Jeremy Corbyn. Okay? They were like, if Corbyn wins, there's gonna be an anti-Semitic pogrom and shit like that. It's just, yeah, I don't know how to explain to someone who goes, dude, depending on your closeness, because I do have friends. I have friends who have insane mania like that as well. And I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. You don't believe that. Okay. That's the way I entertain it. That's the way I deal with it. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. What do you mean you're unsafe walking down fucking West Hollywood streets? Like, get the fuck out of here. You have to snap some sense into people. You know what I mean? I don't know about Howie Mandel personally. I don't know why you brought up Howie Mandel, but like, if you think that, if you're in like Beverly Hills or West Hollywood, you're gonna be victim to a severe anti-Semitic attack, you need to go see a licensed therapist immediately. Okay. It's like Austin. Yeah, it's like Austin coming here and feeling unsafe. Many women are unsafe walking the streets. You think that's the same? There's a valid reason for women to feel unsafe. That's not paranoia. That's not like born out of no real reason. There's a difference between black people feeling unsafe in a fucking sundown town or feeling unsafe when they get pulled over by cops versus someone saying like, oh, there's going to be an immediate anti-Semitic attack against me on Columbia campus or on UCLA campus. Like, get the fuck out of here. You know?
Trump administration's effort to deport a Columbia University student protester moved to a New York City courtroom yesterday. Mahmoud Khalil was detained on Saturday night by immigration authorities and taken to Louisiana. The documents obtained by CBS News show that the case against Khalil is based on a rarely used law. Lilia Luciano was in court for yesterday's hearing and has the latest. Lilia, good morning to you. What can you tell us?
Good morning, Gail. Khalil's legal team argues his detention is unconstitutional. On Monday.
Oh, I was giving you an example of who has more of a right to feel unsafe. Please don't take my comment out of context. Okay, what do you mean? You didn't present it as such. How am I supposed to see it within context, in text form? Write it differently then. Anyway.
Monday, a federal judge issued a temporary order blocking Khalil's deportation, and in a courtroom in New York City.
Yeah, like the greatest counter to people who go, I feel so unsafe at Columbia University, I feel so unsafe at American college campuses, is like, why the fuck don't the Jewish people that are setting up these encampments feel unsafe then? What do they know that you don't know? You know? That's it. And if they say, oh, those are bad Jews, then you already know what fucking level of Zionism this person is operating on. The other side, the other thing that, like, especially post October 7, that people have forgotten about, weirdly enough, is that, yeah, Jews feeling unsafe is an understandable position in American society, especially right now. It's just that who they're supposed to be fearing is what's wrong here. If you think that someone wearing a keffiyeh is a danger to you, you're a fucking rabid racist psychopath. You should be afraid of the dudes wearing suits that are in Congress right now. You should be afraid of the neo-Nazi motherfuckers that are Sig Heiling, not cozying up to those neo-Nazi motherfuckers that are Sig Heiling, while because you think that in the short term that they'll actually, you know, defend Israel and will pack up people who make you feel bad about your defense of Israel, the apartheid state. Like, what are we doing here? There has never been a moment in any Western nation where Jews have been under attack by fucking Muslims, okay? There has never been a moment in the Western world where Jews have ever been under attack by fucking Muslim perpetrators of anti-Semitic hate crimes. It is always Nazis, always and forever. That's it. It's so strange. What the fuck? Stalin, Mao, and Hitler didn't murder millions of people. Their public sector workers did. Elon Musk reposted. I don't know about that as a blanket statement, considering there might be isolated incidents, but as a broader sentiment, yes, agreed. No, I'm saying who is responsible for the overwhelming majority of anti-Semitic attacks? Is it fucking random Arab people? Or is it neo-Nazis? That's it. That's my point. There has never been a moment in American history where there has never, ever been a moment in American history where there's been a tremendous amount, like there's been an overwhelming amount, or even a majority, or even like a significant percentage of anti-Semitic hate crimes against Jewish people conducted by Arabs, Muslims, yada, yada, yada. Okay? Never. And that's precisely the reason why the ADL, in an effort to present this as a Muslim versus Jew dynamic, will desperately cling on to the notion that, like, oh, well, these guys went to a Jewish community center and they protested outside of a Jewish community center. That's an Arab protest against Jews. It's a Muslim protest against Jews. Meanwhile, what the fuck were they doing at the Jewish community center? Not Jewish shit. Let me tell you what. They were fucking selling real estate in the West Bank. The fuck? Of course people are going to protest that. What do you mean? Yeah, who shot up a synagogue in Pittsburgh? Exactly. Who? It was a fucking Trump supporter. That's who. A Trump supporter who outflanked Trump and said, the great replacement is happening. And Jews are doing the great replacement, so I want to punish them. That's the motherfucker who shot up the synagogue. It's ridiculous. Cry more, please. Nice, man. Thanks. Yeah, I do think it's really fucked up that hatred, bigotry is growing in this country, and there are otherwise reasonable people who on this issue lose their fucking minds, okay? Otherwise reasonable people who just have lost the plot entirely. Here's an example of this, okay? Apparently this guy is one of Ethan Klein's fans, and he called into Dean's live stream. As you guys might know, Dean is a TikTok, he's liberal Spider-Man. He's a TikTok debate guy. I recently talked to him on his own live stream. And ever since I talked to him on his own live stream, his fucking Ethan Klein fans have been like swarming his shit nonstop, telling him to stay away from me. I'm scary. I'm a scary anti-Semite. Here, let's listen to a conversation that took place.
I voted for Trump because I really don't like the way that the left party is going socially. I feel like it's extremely toxic. Well, you can take like one of the biggest examples, I believe the biggest streamer on the left, Hassan Parker. He's just extremely, radical, and gets people just really worked up. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how about we look on the right? Nick Fuentes. Which one do you think is more harmful?
Honestly, between them, Hassan Parker. He literally plays
Hassan Parker.
Previously, I never thought I would hear this from a fan of H3H3 podcast. The only place that I ever heard this from was Destiny's subreddit. And before my naysayers, the DDGers say, oh, obsessed, you're bringing up Destiny. No, they literally, for a very long time, made this claim that I was a bigger danger to America than Nick fucking Fuentes, who dined with the president. Okay? A neo-Nazi who dined with the president. If you think that a neo-Nazi who dined with the president, whose opinions are broadly reflected by people in President Trump's cabinet, is not a more significant danger to America's future than someone like myself, you might be a fucking Nazi. Or at least you very clearly have demonstrated that someone who is an anti-Nazi unconditionally is a greater danger than someone who is an open Nazi. You might not think you are that way, but it's very obvious that you feel that way. You are saying it voluntarily. No, this isn't liberalism chatter. This is like, unironically, this is a Hassan derangement syndrome. You've lost your fucking mind.
What? You don't even know his last name.
Dude,
his last name is Piker.
Hassan Piker, my bad. I got one vowel off.
Wait, I'm so sorry, but saying that like Hassan produces worse outcomes for society than a neo-Nazi that loves Hitler and gets like 40,000 viewers is absolutely radical. It is absolutely
I disagree
insane.
I just don't think that you really understand how
but
Hassan is.
But I want to like clarify. Nick Fuentes has convinced hundreds of thousands of white guys that they should be white supremacists in the Holocaust. You know, it wasn't.
I love how insane these haters look to normal people. Yeah, exactly. This is what I try to describe people like. If you hate watch me for this long, you are going to develop opinions that are so insane. Okay? You are going to develop opinions that are so insane to the normal person that knows even a little bit. Okay? You don't have to know the full breadth of my radical ideology. Okay? You just need to know like a couple things. You need to know like Nazism is perhaps the worst thing you can be. Okay? Even people who would otherwise consider me to be a radical will still go, that's fucking nuts. Unless you have been brain broken and are operating on fucking stan culture and you have developed an incredibly, incredibly unhealthy obsession born out of your favorite content creator's incredibly unhealthy obsession over someone like myself. Discovered caller posts in r/destiny and r/depression. Always.
Is it real and Hitler was good and whatnot?
Sure, Hassan just got banned for trying to incite somebody to kill a fucking CEO or something, or not CEO. It was.
I have my critiques of Hassan. I actually don't hold this one too far against him because watching like the entirety of the clip, it was made incredibly fucking clear that he was saying that if these other Republicans really cared about Medicaid fraud, as they'd pointed out, that they had unalived this Rick guy because Rick committed the largest instance of Medicaid fraud that has ever occurred in our country. And then Hassan went on to own up to it, take accountability, and said that that was an incredibly hyperbolic statement and there was a billion ways to word it better. I don't think that that's comparable to making hundreds of thousands of young white guys want to like kill like Jewish people. I don't think it is at all. I don't think that's comparable in the fucking slightest.
So Dean, I know you're smart. I know you know what a dog whistle is. when you say something like,
I just want you to respond. I want you to respond.
Okay,
What's
go ahead.
worse, what Hassan did, or like radicalizing hundreds of thousands of young white guys into thinking that Jewish people are subhuman, black people are subhuman, women don't deserve rights, etc.
Hassan does the exact same thing. Hassan has literally pushed propaganda against Jewish people, called every Jewish.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm just not even gonna.
That's just like not true. That's just actually not true.
Yeah, no, I have my critiques of Hassan, and I've spoken very publicly about them. But to say that Hassan has a worse impact on society than Nick Fuentes
is actually delusional. It's actually delusional.
It's one of the most insane things. I'm glad that these guys are pushing back on it. But apparently, this is the fucking guy. Dean Withers scared to debate about Hassan and downplays his misdeeds. This was posted on the H3H3 production subreddit. This was from his One Liberal versus 100 Trump supporters 24 stream VOD a day ago. I'm sorry, voting for Trump because you think the left is toxic is crazy. I'm actually the one who was on the video. Didn't actually vote Trump. That was just the only way I could get him to talk about Hassan because he was only talking to Trump supporters. Damn, even more disappointing, but very good job of getting onto the call. Thanks. He only put me on eventually because I said he was scared in the chat, lol. Big ego. It's just so freakish to behave like this. Like he's like, oh, I'm not actually a Trump supporter. I lied about that to get on the call to just get him to talk about Hassan. What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? This person is a Destiny poster, by the way, of course, if you didn't know, and now is a firm foot soldier planted in the H3H3 community. Like, I genuinely think Destiny's unhealthy obsession over the course of the past 5-6 years now has caused these people to not even be Destiny fans. They're just like, I'll go anywhere that says fuck Hassan. They will move on from Destiny if need be, if they can find a new weapon to wield. Like, they don't even know why they fucking hate me. This guy doesn't even know my name. Like, that's psychotic. You don't know my name. You don't even know what my fucking last name is. And your obsession is to this degree. These guys also personally think they're smarter than fucking liberals, by the way. They're snarking over the randomest things. It's crazy. Muda throws down the gauntlet with Hassan. What? Mudahar offers to pay for an entire trip to Palestine with Hassan so they can do journalism. It comes after Hassan questioned his genocide stance. Never seen this guy do anything of substance. On my own dime, I will fly both of us down to Israel and drive across the border. Is Mudahar trying to get fucking murked? Okay. That's so funny. I don't think he understands how this process goes. If he thinks that I haven't done my due diligence in terms of like doing exactly that, he's a little silly. That's what's so, you're getting Substack hit pieces onto? Yeah, whatever. That's, dude, none of that means anything, okay? It's all fucking background noise. We're giving it more attention than it deserves, okay? Yeah, money was stopping me. Mudahar's like, in order to make sure that we can, in order to fucking entertain this beef, to shit on Hassan, I am going to die to a fucking Boeing rocket. Yeah. I like to think that the only thing stopping me from going to fucking Gaza is money. That's what it is. You're right. And not like valid security concerns. And not from Hamas, by the way, from fucking Israel. You'd think a certain content creator for over a decade would sense a sudden schism and shift in their audience and perhaps question whether there are new long-term dedicated followers or just people using you as a vehicle and cudgel against their ideological enemy. But what do I know? No. I think when you're that desperate to find allegiances, you don't give a shit. Anyway, bro's about it. He's willing to get drone strike for drama. Yeah, I know. It's so fun, dude. Dude, the other part of this is, once again, the other part of this also is the fact that people who are going to hype up that fucking delusion, the other people that are hyping up that delusion, that fantasize about how like it's only dangerous in Gaza because of Palestinians and because of Hamas or whatever, are the same people that don't understand that Israel has fucking assassinated 170 or 142 journalists in like historic numbers, okay? Historic numbers of assassinated journalists. More journalists were killed in this past year than fucking World War II and their families. And you're over here being like, oh, dude, it's just totally safe. Why? Why isn't there American journalists in Gaza right now? You know, Hassan Piker is a terrorist supporting piece of shit and he's going to get deported soon. Waited 10 minutes to tell you that. The army gave me a particular set of skills. My patience is endless, lol. What are you going to do, bro? You're going to come over to my house and suck my cock? Is that what you're going to do? The army gave you a particular set of skills and you're going to use that to what? Get fucking assassinated by the police? Is that what your skill set is? You dumb fuck. You pathetic fucking loser. You sold your body to the fucking Defense Department. I'm one of the motherfuckers that actually is actively trying to get you health care, and your delusions are like, this guy's a terrorist, okay? I got a special set of skills. I'm going to use them to get killed by a fucking cop on my way to go assassinate a Twitch streamer who wants me to have a better fucking life. Moron. Thank God, dude. Yeah, you're not going to do shit. You want to know why I know that? Because this is the maximum amount of fucking... this is the maximum amount of activism that you're engaging in. I waited 10 minutes to say this to you, that I'm going to come and kill you. Patience is the skill, you idiot. Okay. Fucking Harry Potter head talking about how he's going to kill me. And now he's immediately backing down and being like, no, it's the army gave me the skill of patience, actually. To what? Wait out that I get fucking deported? Keep fantasizing about it, dipshit. So many of these dumbasses unironically think that, like, if I got deported, or if I went to prison, or if I got fucking killed, their lives would be better. It wouldn't, dude. It wouldn't, okay? Your life would suck dick in the same exact ways that it sucks dick right now, okay? Fix your fucking life. Stop blaming other people. Stop thinking that I'm ruining your fucking life to that degree that you would, like, put together a veiled, not so veiled threat. It's so dumb. Ask yourself, who has caused you to feel this level of resentment and anger and animosity towards a motherfucker who is just a Twitch streamer online? If you at any point think like this about any human being that, let alone a human being that wants you to have a better life, by the way, you have lost the plot. It's so goddamn pathetic. There's a bunch of shit that pisses me off, okay? There are a bunch of people that piss me off. You know what I do? I just don't follow it. Much healthier to do that. It's much healthier to do that than anything else. Enough shit that the Democrats and the Republicans both do piss me off anyway. You had a Houthi rebel on and immediately told him you loved him. You're pathetic. What? Explain to me something. Okay? Why would I do that when you're going to be deported? First of all, I'm not going to be deported. I'm an American citizen. I was born here, dipshit. That's number one. Number two, that person was not a fucking Houthi rebel. You've been told that he was. It's fine. He's not. Even if he is, what the fuck has he done to you? What has he done to you? How has anyone in Yemen ever impacted your life? Aside from being the recipient of a metric ton of munition that cost $1 billion under Operation Prosperity Guardian for the crime of trying to stop a fucking genocide that Israel was conducting that was causing $30 billion of American taxpayer funds to go to Israel so they could kill fucking babies. And then we spent another billion on Yemen. That's $34 billion that could have gone back to the American population. That's $34 billion that could have been used to fix the fucking potholes here, to make sure that you have the best possible health care, to make sure that your children are adequately educated. Here you are yelling at a fucking guy that says, that's a very dumb way to operate. Think. Please open your fucking minds. Israel never conducted a genocide. That's what you and your friends want for Israel. Oh my God. Brother, stop falling for clickbait. This guy is baiting you. I don't think that this guy is that. No one is this stupid, right? Yeah. You're right. Every international organ of justice, virtually every single human rights organization, they're all lying about Israel doing a genocide. Okay? They're all lying. You know who's telling the truth? Your friends, I guess, or whoever the fuck told you, some random drama YouTuber. Read a different book other than fucking, Harry Potter. His military discord, that's not true, because a lot of fucking active duty people that went out there also know what's up. That's not even true. There's a lot of fucking military people that are not exactly fond of Israel either. Both people who are conflicted by their service and people who are not conflicted by their service. Okay? This position right here is no longer a popular position. This is an unpopular position. It is objectively untrue, but it's also an unpopular position. You have Republicans who think Israel is doing a genocide. It's over. It's done. That's why those who still want to do propaganda at this stage are becoming increasingly more vicious, increasingly more overt, no longer doing it in a covert way, but actively doing it in a way that undermines, like, the First Amendment, for example. That's why you have it with, like, the Miami mayor You have the likes of the Miami mayor, for example, threatening to release the lease of a movie theater because they dared to show an Oscar-winning documentary, No Other Land. You only do that when you're desperate, okay? It can't go on forever. My fear always is that if people are not steered away from anti-Semitic thought and recognize that Israel is a separate thing from Judaism, okay, most people, it's going to go in that direction regardless. Like people, Israel's already a pariah. People are already growing in their distaste towards Israelis and Israel in general, okay? But if someone like myself or others who are against anti-Semitism and anti-Zionist, if people like myself don't try to desperately course correct every fucking day, we are going to move in a direction where it's going to be far too fucking late, okay? And we're already heading in that direction. And I think a lot of people don't understand that reality. A lot of people who are pro-Israel don't understand that reality. They're very short-sighted. I see a dangerous amount of fucking anti-Semitic thought, a dangerous amount of anti-Semitic thought coming from a lot of fucking people, especially young people, and a dangerous amount of unrestricted anti-Semitism coming from people that are all over the conservative media circuit. Motherfuckers talking about the Talmud and shit. A lot of people who are far any side are dangerous. That's a thought terminating cliche as well. Oh, who are far any side? Brother, what do you mean far any side? Okay, I'm far leftist. Let's say I'm far leftist. There is no position that I have that I think if you and I were to have a charitable conversation, you would disagree with. And that's not because I'm propagandizing to you. That's because deep down inside, you would come to the recognition that I'm not actually this scary person that you've been taught was actually engaging in dangerous ideas. Yeah, my most radical position is that I'm too much of a fucking anti-Nazi, too much of an anti-fascist. Fascism of any sort, whether it's Israeli fascism in the form of Zionism or Nazi fascism. Damn, dude, you're too far left. You want too many civil rights. You want too much equality. That's not how things work. Can you explain to me a bit more about what happens if we don't course correct? There's already a fucking insane amount of anti-Semitism, like actual anti-Semitism, not like anti-Israeli sentiment, anti-Israel sentiment, but genuine anti-Semitism growing on fucking TikTok amongst the youth who literally listen to what people are saying when they say, you know, Israel's doing this for Judaism, and if you criticize Israel, then you know you're anti-Semitic. And people go, okay, I don't like what Israel is doing, and maybe there's a deep dark secret here that that it is actually Jews that control American government and American media or whatever. And every time you got the fucking dumbass Trump White House going, Shalom, Mahmoud, we're deporting you for fucking criticizing Israel. What do you think happens to a dude in Arkansas who's never met a Jew in his life? What do you think that guy thinks? He goes, I really like Donald Trump, but goddamn, these Jews do have him by the balls. Okay, that's what he thinks. And it starts right there, and it fucking gets completely out of hand. Americans especially, due to its proximity to fucking materialist thinking, due to its proximity to historical materialism, have this tendency to really, really love conspiracy theories. Anti-Semitism is the OG conspiracy theory. It is at the heart of most conspiracy theories. It is such an easy fucking perfectly wrapped bow to tie around the good-bad dynamic that liberals operate on, the boundaries of good and the boundaries of bad. Bad things happen because of bad people in power. It's not capitalism. It's actually a select handful of bad people. Who are those select few bad people? It's Jews. It's always Jews in every fucking conspiracy theory, okay? It's super easy for people to fall into this trap, and it's already happening. I see so much of people being like, well, every country that wanted to kick out the Jews, they probably had a point. That's what I hear so fucking frequently on TikTok. That's what I see in the TikTok comment section. That's what I see on Twitter, on social media. Do you not understand how dangerous that is? Do you not understand how fucking dangerous that narrative it is? It goes from reptilians to Jews so fast. Yeah, I mean, reptilians, globalists, all of these are interchangeable with Jews. That's what it is. To be fair, your own algorithm is the reason you see it. No, dumbass. I don't just, first of all, what makes you think that this is just on TikTok? And secondly, of course, my own algorithm shows me this because I fucking track anti-Semites and Nazis. Yes, I do political commentary. I'm on Twitter all day. What the fuck is wrong with you? What, you think that's a big gotcha? You think I'm like secretly actually in agreement with this shit while I'm in the process of describing the dangers of anti-Semitism? How fucking brain broken do you have to be to try to think you can slam a fucking gotcha? Yes, I'm saying that's why it seems more prevalent. No, that's not the reason why it's more prevalent. There's also obviously real trackers that look at favorability ratings for Jews in America. And when you get to Gen Z, it explodes. And it's not just because of Israel. Like, they don't just say, what's your favorability of Israel? They say, how favorable do you see Jews? And Gen Z does not fuck with Jews at all, okay? Straight up, they don't. How do you think that happened? Perhaps it's because their first foray, their first introduction to Judaism and Jews most prominently was this fucking insane 1+ year long, 1.5 year long genocide that Israel conducted while simultaneously claiming it is for Judaism. That conflation is going to set in. And that's precisely the reason why people go, oh, okay, well, you know, I guess they're doing it for Judaism. And yeah, it's not just my algorithm. Ben a Minute did a video. Obviously, you guys saw that where the algorithm almost always lands you on far-right politics. It starts off with like center-right politics from the field of podcasting and podcasters, and it goes firmly into far-right politics very quickly. They've also started doing this thing with normal-looking meme pages. They do 1 second of a Hitler speech at the very end of the video that gets thousands of clicks because the rest is unrelated, which makes it look like popular content and mixing literal Hitler and funny videos. Jesus Christ. How many times have I talked about how insanely pervasive right-wing commentary is, especially online? I mean, look at Twitch. Over the course of a year, over the course of a singular year, the largest political commentator on this platform became a right-wing guy, okay? That he was already a very large content creator on this platform, one of the largest, but now he's even larger and doing political commentary and growing as a consequence of political commentary. He's also the largest right-wing commentator in general, larger than fucking Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro ever could dream of. Right-wing sentiment is very popular everywhere online. It gets algorithmically boosted, and then that feeds another cycle of like more people seeing it and more people normalizing it and more people thinking this is awesome, this is good. I think TikTok played a big role in this as well. You take one social media platform, even if it's not the most popular, and you firmly boost the algorithm for neo-Nazi sentiment and make it normal, then yeah, it's gonna fucking have an impact on every other social media platform. This is something that I've been talking about for years, and it's everywhere, and it's seemingly impossible to avoid. You've been making the same point for 2 years. I've been making the same point for not just 2 years, chatter. I've been making this point for the past decade. I thought TikTok was woke. No, TikTok is just unrestricted. It'll show you what pops off no matter what. TikTok is the only one. TikTok is out of all the social media platforms, the only one that has like some semblance of parity between leftist content and right-wing content. That's it. Anyway, this is precisely the reason why no matter what people fucking say, no matter what dumbasses say about how like I'm more dangerous of a figure than fucking Nick Fuentes because they're brain broken. They're not even a liberal at that point. They're just like genuinely schizophrenic. I will still advocate for the things I'm advocating for with the hopes that people will wake up to that reality. This is what I've done my whole life. This is what I've done my whole political commentary career. First you say, that's not true. You're being hyperbolic. Then you turn around and you go, okay, maybe you had some good points. And then you go, holy shit, it might be far too late, but I do agree with him. Now I'm a fucking fan, but maybe it might be too late. That's the cycle. Yeah, I saw this post. Ex-Asman fan jumping ship over here. I'm officially jumping ship over here. I can't stand Asman and his brain rot community any longer. He should have stuck to gaming instead of the dumb shit he's spewing on this politics arc of his. He has zero education and doesn't do any actual research, but is influencing millions of people every day on misinformation and lies. His audience is becoming radical. This is why Asmongold won't actually have a conversation with me. This is the type of shit. This is the reason why he doesn't want to have a conversation. This is the real reason why he doesn't want to have a conversation. Because he's worried that it's going to make him look bad, like he's not knowledgeable on the issues that he speaks on. It's going to frustrate a lot of these people. He spent an hour talking about you today. Yes, of course. And he's going to continue talking about me. He's going to probably talk about me even more. But this is it. Even other streamers are making fun of him now.
Holy dump. Italy for sure. There's no way. Who just got rid of all their belongings?
We might be in northern Italy.
Oh, okay. Asmongold's house. Honestly, I could see it.
There's no more soul in his community no more. It's all just racism and extremism now. I came across Hassan the past couple of weeks, and it's been such a pleasure seeing someone with the balls to call Asmon out on his bullshit instead of sucking him off like most content creators. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, and hopefully I'm accepted here. I'm surprised there are so many other ex-Asmon fans in here as well. I feel right at home. That is a reason. That is part of the reason. And it's not my intention to like steal Asmongold's audience or whatever. I would have no issues. Look, here's the thing. Asmongold has always been a larger content creator than me. I have no problems with that. It's great. Wonderful. What I do have a problem with is when you have a prominent fucking community, like a massive community, and you're just like feeding them to the goddamn gills with not only Republican propaganda, but also just falsehoods in general with no care or consideration for the truth. That shit is very frustrating. Okay, it normalizes reactionary sentiment. It makes the platform more toxic in general. It's not good. It's not good at all. If Asmongold was at his size and doing fucking liberal politics even if he disagreed with me, I wouldn't care. Do you understand? As long as he wasn't spending all of his time being like, this guy Hassan is a very dangerous terrorist. We need to deplatform him. And he's not doing liberal commentary. He's doing right-wing commentary and doing that at the same time. He just goes, Hassan isn't an expert in this either. It's an opinion. Yeah, except my opinion is grounded by facts and research. His opinion is not grounded by anything. It's just whatever fucking his chat said last. He knows it too. If he thought that we just had simple disagreements of opinion, he would have a conversation with me every day of the week. He could undermine my position. He could show his audience how wrong I was. He doesn't want to do it because he knows he will look like he's not knowledgeable on this issue and he's just talking out of his fucking ass because that's precisely what it is. But when you're right wing, you can do that because your audience doesn't know too much either. So yeah, I am. The reality is I'm not the smartest person, but I'm certainly educated on the subject matter that I discuss. I did cover Asmongold's video on Khalil, Mahmoud Khalil. I did. It was dog shit. And then I tried to get him to basically turn around and reconsider his position. And at the end, he conceded and he was like, well, if Hassan is right, then, he should stay here and he should actually turn around and even sue the Trump administration. Right. That's what he said. Yeah, I said Asmongold thinks it's a violation of free speech when devs make video game boobs smaller, but when the DHS openly kidnaps a green card holder for being pro-Palestine, he thinks it's awesome and not a violation of the First Amendment. Classic free speech defender stuff right here. This went viral on Gaming Circle Jerk in a locked post. You're literally invited by Oxford and Cambridge to speak on topics like this. I know. No amount of institutional legitimacy will cause these people to turn around and be like, maybe he does know what the fuck he's talking about. I mean, if they cared about that shit, they would look to who I interview, whether it be Bernie Sanders or literal fucking journalists and academics that have spent their entire lives on these issues. They would look to that and go, okay, maybe he does know what he's talking about. But no, of course, they don't know any of that shit. They just think, Hassan is a guy who just reads Twitter, not realizing what I'm reading on Twitter either. It's just a very easy cliche to just be like, don't listen to him. He's a hypocrite. Don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. They will either say that, all these institutions that rely on my commentary to a certain degree, or at least consider what I have to say to be worthwhile, are woke and gay, or they won't even know about any of that shit. How excited are you to finally see Hamilton in a Ferrari this weekend? What are you talking about? Is that Formula One? The worst part about all this is that it's kind of turning me back into a fucking debate lord, and I despise that. It's so many of these slop tubers have decided that the easiest meta here is to just never actually talk. Never actually talk to me, but talk about me instead. And therefore, it's just the only way for me to shake away their audience from these idiotic positions is to actively, directly talk to them. And also, Mudahar hasn't made a new YouTube video about me. I don't know why you said that. I looked. Fudahar? Anyway. Literally saw people on Twitter urging others to not watch or engage with the Noah video because he's the last person who's qualified to be talking about this. Is literally just stop, look over here, please. Yeah, I know. That's the funniest way to try to get people to not look at the truth. They're like, please, no matter what you do, this is a bad person. Please. No. Isn't it weird? Isn't it strange how every single content creator who talks about fucking Palestine is just not knowledgeable on the issue? Please don't pay attention to them. Please, no matter what you do. I find that very strange, you know? I find that very odd that all these people are constantly going, hey, no matter what, don't talk. Don't talk about this stuff. Don't look at this stuff. Don't look in that direction. It's scary. It's terrifying. It's cult-like thinking. Be fucking open-minded. Maybe you will be convinced. What's the worst thing? Maybe you'll learn the truth. They were saying Noah wasn't a trusted source because he recommended watching Bad Empanadas. They're idiots. Yeah. Not Noah Colwyn chatters. Noah Sampson, who made a really good video, which is what kickstarted this like Mudahar shit too. He made a really good video on YouTubers who deny the genocide by way of hitting like a centrist position on it. Did you see that they went after FD Signifier because he commented on the Noah video? Yeah, I know. I did.
A war criminal.
Yeah, this is the new Gatsu video on America's downfall. Have you ever had Noah on? Noah Sampson? I don't know if I've ever had him on the broadcast, but yeah, I mean, I've hung out with him. He's great. I like him a lot. I think he's also very intelligent, very thoughtful, and puts a lot of effort into his videos, especially when the ones that I've seen. I can't speak for all of his videos, but certainly the ones that I've seen. Anyway, yeah, Democrats are not going to save us. Once again, Democratic leader Chuck Schumer has announced that he will vote to keep the government open, signaling a path to averting a shutdown. These goddamn fucking cowards, dude. We also got Columbia University, as I was saying, expelling, suspending, and temporarily revoking the diplomas of dozens of students who occupied Hins Hall during the pro-Palestinian protests last spring. Everything sucks. We have the UN report. We have the UN report on sexual assaults. I have to pee real quick. I'm gonna be back in a second. This is still Mahmoud Khalid.
Green card holder be granted at least 2 private calls with his attorneys.
For the first time, lawyers for Mahmoud Khalil faced off against government prosecutors in New York City Wednesday in a case that has raised serious free speech concerns.
Release Mahmoud! Right now! Release Mahmoud!
Outside the court, hundreds of protesters gathered to demand Khalil's release.
Now are we gonna stop?
The Syrian-born activist of Palestinian descent had been a prominent voice in the student-led demonstrations at Columbia University last year.
This is a movement, an anti-war movement.
Ramzi Qasim is one of the lawyers representing Khalil.
He was never detained, arrested during the protest. He was not charged with a crime.
No, Mr. Khalil was never charged or convicted of any crimes. And so what did he do to deserve this? The answer is nothing.
But Trump administration officials disagree, calling Khalil a Hamas sympathizer, even accusing him of handing out the terrorist group's propaganda.
We're going to kick you out. It's as simple as that. This is not about free speech. This is about people that don't have a right to be in the United States to begin with.
Documents obtained by CBS News show the government is basing its case against Khalil on a seldom used section of the Immigration and Nationality Act, which permits the Secretary of State to deport someone if they believe that the person could harm U.S. foreign policy interests.
There are no national security or foreign policy implications here. People are entitled to their viewpoints and they're entitled to express them, and they shouldn't be punished by the government for doing that. They shouldn't be incarcerated or disappeared or moved 1,000 miles away from their home.
The judge has not yet ruled on his lawyer's request to have Khalil moved back from Louisiana to New York. Khalil's attorneys questioned the administration's claims that he ever distributed any Hamas propaganda, urging them to show any evidence if they have it.
All right, Lilia, thank you very much.
Laura, a green card holder, even if I might like that green card holder, doesn't have an indefinite right to be in the United States of America, right? American citizens have different rights from people who have green cards, from people who have student visas. And so my attitude on this is, this is not fundamentally about free speech. And to me, yes, it's about national security, but it's also more importantly about who do we, as an American public, decide gets to join our national community.
That's a lie. It is fundamentally about free speech. Even when you say American citizens have different rights than non-citizens, and then say it's fundamentally not about free speech, where you're basically saying the truth of the matter is that, yes, fundamentally, we want to change free speech restrictions for non-citizens. That's it. That's the entire purpose of this. It's fundamentally about free speech. This entire issue is about free speech.
And if the Secretary of State and the President decide this person shouldn't be in America and they have no legal right to stay here, it's as simple as that.
Do you see more such deportations happening?
I think we'll certainly see some people who get deported on student visas if we determine that it's not in the best interest of the United States to have them in our country. So yeah, I don't know how high that number is going to be, but you're going to see more people.
Ridiculous.
Unless Congress...
Here it is. Senator Schumer is not forcing the Republicans to concede on anything and not using the remaining power, the marginal power that the minority party has at its disposal to get Republicans to concede in order to avert a government shutdown. Insane stuff.
Acts, the federal government will shut down tomorrow at midnight. I have said many times there are no winners in a government shutdown, but there are certainly victims.
Holy shit. That's a good take. So your prediction was wrong? Wait, what? What was my prediction? I said that the Democrats might force concessions out of the Republicans, or at least push this battle seemingly, because they said they would, but I didn't make a prediction that they certainly would not. Like, do you think I'm a believer in the Democratic Party? What are we, crazy? At most, I reported on yesterday, I reported on how the Democrats said that they would not let this go through. Maybe I did. Maybe I was like, definitely they'll fight back against this. Maybe I said that. I don't remember. Yeah, I was wrong, if that's the case. It is shockingly bad. It is yet another instance where the Democrats have, I guess, gone beyond. Dude, look at this. Look at this chat. Hold on. Where the fuck is it? You didn't. Yes, you did. I don't have any confidence in the Democrats, but they did say that they were going to fight back against this yesterday, and that there wasn't going to be 60 votes for this, and that they would have pushed it into a filibuster, and or they would have pushed the Republicans to come back and bargain with them and get some assurances. I wanted them to do that. I urged people to do that. I thought the Democrats, at least judging by their response initially, would do that potentially, but I have no real firmly held convictions about the Democrats doing the right thing ever. So there's 0%. I don't think I fucking was actively talking about how they definitely are going to do they're definitely going to do a push here. But the reality is, this is the bare minimum. Okay, what they're supposed to be doing here, what Chuck Schumer is doing here right now, is beyond lower than the bare minimum. It is alarming. Everything fucking sucks. It is truly, we're so done, dude. We are so fucked. We are so done. Every day that goes by, I'm like, I don't know what the alternative is, but god damn, it's like, it hasn't always been this way. It's never been this bad. It's never been this bad. This is a new level of depravity and a new level of cowardice from the Democrats. Why are you so doomer? We're going to get a fire-ass Dem TikTok dance over this? I'm going to Brian Kill Me. I'm going to become Brian Kill Me. Oh my God.
The most vulnerable Americans who rely on federal programs to feed their families. While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America.
So Republicans have basically trapped the Democrats in this situation where if they force a government shutdown, the government shuts down. If they don't force a government shutdown, they permanently shut down federal agencies. That is where we're at. All of this
will win. We will win.
Oh God, stop. It was bad during the Reagan years. Trump is a modern Reagan, but even worse, God help us. We are so fucking cooked. I don't see any way out of this other than Trump triggering the second Great Depression at this point. Like, straightforward, business plot succeeds style, American fascist governance during a Great Depression style economic collapse. And there is no, the Democrats are not going to help us.
That are much, much worse. A shutdown would give Donald Trump and Elon Musk carte blanche to destroy vital government services at a significantly faster rate than they can right now. Under a shutdown, the Trump administration would have full authority to deem whole agencies, programs, and personnel non-essential, furloughing staff with no promise.
They've lost the stencil.
Democrats, you are being betrayed. It just came out that Chuck Schumer, the minority leader in the Senate, is pushing the caucus to vote.
That's crazy. Will fucking Stancil is shitting on the Democrats. Holy fuck. That's like Matt Iglesias is the one person left out there. Like once Matt Iglesias is like, God damn, Democrats, I didn't think you'd cave this hard. Is done. They got no one left.
Yes, for cloture, to close debate on Trump's funding bill. This would allow Democrats to lie and pretend they oppose the bill while taking a vote that would ensure the bill passes. This is their only leverage over Trump, and for months they've been saying they're going to use this bill to force negotiations with Trump to cut Trump's power and Elon Musk's rampage through the government. But now, with the opportunity to do so, they're giving up their leverage without a fight because they're scared to use it. They're not even trying. They are betraying you. Primary Chuck Schumer, primary every last one of them if you have to. This is unacceptable. They're not fighting. They are leaving you to rot.
They would ever be rehired. I believe it is my...
Yeah, someone said, I saw this before you repeated it in the chat. Republicans are school shooters and Democrats are the cops. Unfortunately, Democrats are the cops from Uvalde. Yeah. I saw someone else say this before you, by the way. Don't try to fucking yoink it from another chatter. And I suspect that other chatter probably saw it on Twitter, but it is true. We are the school children. We are the school children. The Democrats are the Uvalde cops, and the Republicans are the fucking school shooter. Straight up. They yoinked it from Reddit. It's what's going on right now. Schumer is right. Dems are understandably spoiling for a fight, but this was not it. The idea that there was a leverage and a shutdown was magical thinking. It'd be a gift to Doge. More people would be hurt, and it would have ended in a worse deal. This is correct. All my friends in D.C. are hopping mad about the way we are getting screwed on this bill. I am also mad. So it's especially hothouse environment for Hill staffers and members. A shutdown is itself Doge on steroids. Elon would declare whatever minority federal workers he doesn't want to fire, essential furlough everyone else, and declare victory. You'd end up with the Democrats begging the GOP to pass a CR and bring the workers back. This is what the Democrats' copium was on this issue. No, the fuck they wouldn't. You want to know why? What the fuck was that? I'm back. Hello. I'm here. That was crazy. I just got CIA lasered. I got hit with a CIA heart attack beam. My stream did. All right. We're back. It wasn't long enough. The stream didn't cut out long enough, I don't think. Left us on a cliffhanger? Yeah, I said, you want to know why? And then I got shut down like the government. Okay, where was I? Oh, the Democrats, a shutdown goes in either direction, okay? Nobody likes it. Nobody wants it. It's not beneficial to the Republican Party. People are coping when they claim that like, oh, it would be Doge on steroids. It's a lie. The reason why it's a lie is because the clean resolution, which is not a clean one, or the clean continuing resolution, which is not a clean continuing resolution, is actually going to change your Wi-Fi password. Trust me. Okay. The fuck? What do you know, chatter? Tell us your Wi-Fi password. Dude, I don't even know what my Wi-Fi password is. Yes, DAuth attack. What is a DAuth attack? I can explain. I do it to my neighbors. To get free Wi-Fi. Okay. So you think there's someone in my neighborhood that is doing a 1 second deauthorization attack? Is that what you're claiming is what happened? I'm not on Wi-Fi, but you know, I feel like they would have to be pretty close to my house to be able to do that. I'm not on Wi-Fi. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. So what's going on here is Matt Iglesias coping. This was cope coming from some of the Democrats who were like, well, a government shutdown is kind of exactly like a government shutdown is exactly like Doge. You know, they're just shutting down certain government offices that they don't like and keeping others open. The problem is that is not a good position for the administration to be in, which is precisely why there is a very limited amount of time that they will entertain it. Because a lot of people, a lot of federal government workers being furloughed is insanely fucking unpopular, and it will very quickly turn sour. It'll very quickly turn sour for the administration in charge. Having said that, however, allowing this to push through, allowing this supposedly clean continuing resolution to be pushed through will cause permanent damage to those federal agencies anyway, okay? Especially without assurances. This is unacceptable. And their meta here is going to be that they're going to vote no on the clean resolution, but they're not going to, they're going to vote for, they're going to vote for closure so that there's no necessity for a filibuster-proof majority. And therefore, they're basically saying, yeah, we're not going to fight back. We're not going to actually, we're going to let this pass. It is the cowardly way of letting it pass while simultaneously making it seem like you voted against it. That's it. It's no different than voting yes for it. Okay? DemCR Watch, Michigan U.S. Senator Elisa Slotkin affirms that she will vote no, said during evening town hall she wants assurances that Elon Musk and Doge won't stray away from Congress. What Congress appropriates has not gotten assurance. There's no language you could add to any bill that would avoid the looming Supreme Court showdown about the constitutionality of the Impoundment Control Act. If SCOTUS says that's good law, then it's good law. If they say it's unconstitutional, no writer changes that. Here is AOC on this issue.
Republican extreme spending bill removes all of the guardrails and all of the accountability measures to ensure that money is being spent in the way that Congress has directed for it to be spent. This turns the federal government into a slush fund for Donald Trump and Elon Musk. It sacrifices congressional authority, and it is deeply partisan. And so to me, it is almost unthinkable why Senate Democrats would vote to hand the few pieces of leverage that we have away for free when we've been sent here to protect Social Security, protect Medicaid, and protect Medicare.
Yep. There's also this part from AOC. AOC later sidesteps questions from Jake Tapper on if she challenged Schumer for a Senate seat. I think that what we need right now is a unified Senate Democratic caucus that can stand up for this country and not vote for cloture and not vote for this bill. And I think that the strength that we have is in this moment, reconciliation. Republicans do not need Democratic votes for that. They need it for this. And so the strength of our leadership in this moment is going to demonstrate the strength of our caucus. And I cannot urge enough how bad of an idea it is to empower and enable Donald Trump and Elon Musk in this moment. It is dangerous. It is reckless. Asked if she thinks Schumer is a weak Senate leader considering his reported support for cloture, AOC responds, I think that that would be a mistake. We have time between now and tomorrow, and I hope that individuals are considering that. Reconsider it. Yeah, I saw this already. Call her out? Wait, call AOC out? Why would I fucking call AOC out right now? She's right. What? Are you guys okay? Call AOC out for what? Saying the correct thing? Like what? Yeah, I mean, this is not cowardly. This is a collaboration. The Democratic Party is led by the politician equivalent of the dad who went out for cigarettes and never came back. What do you think it would take to call for an American Morena? The Democrats are collapsing. The base despises them. I think the Democrats have a fucking war chest that they would not even... I've thought about this a lot. And I know where your opinion is. You want a third party, and I totally understand that. Especially now more than ever. I think that the Democrats will spend every waking moment absolutely destroying any kind of third-party initiative. Like any kind of third-party initiative. I don't know if this is the right time. I think that there will be a right time, though. I do. I think it's gonna have to happen eventually. People hate them. Fuck the money. It doesn't work that way, Mike. Come on. Fuck the money. Fuck the money and the power. I mean, every fucking media outlet will. You'll have MSNBC calling whichever third party candidate is out there a fucking pedophile. Like just like every media outlet, the New York Times, anyone who goes on a third party run will be branded like a child fucker by New York Times. They'll just be like, yeah, these people are radical, dangerous terrorists and pedophiles. I don't have a belief that it's like the collapse of the Democratic Party is here. I do think that there is a time for potentially third party pushes. You have more viewers than anyone on MSNBC. Bad take. I think you guys are. I don't have confidence yet. The media trust is at an all-time low, but that doesn't mean that people like the left. Make no mistake. Yeah, Morena had a clear, popular, tested leader in AMLO. I don't see anyone that can make that in the States right now. Yeah, it would have to be like a Bernard Sanders coalition, a Bernard Sanders backed coalition somewhere. But I don't disagree with you on the long game. I just don't know if this is the... I don't see the environment being habitable for that, even though this is the least popular that them has been for very good reasons. I think a lot of Americans are losing confidence in them. Let's see what Chuck Schumer is saying on Chris Hayes. Wait, hold on.
Executive branch. And so it would be devastating. Why is it that Elon Musk and Donald Trump want a government shutdown? So they can take control of the government and do their vicious, horrible things. They could cut half the government. They could tell employees you're not essential and never bring them back, permanently firing them. It's a disaster.
I'm calling for Bernie to lead the new party. Now's the time. I mean, Bernie's also too old without a successor as well.
Why did they eliminate SNAP?
I don't disagree with you.
Why did they cut so much of Medicaid? But they could do all that on their own. That's the problem. There is no check on them with a shutdown. That's not to say this CR bill is a good bill. It isn't. It didn't have any safeguards in it. But it would be much, much worse to have a shutdown. And my job, Chris, as leader, is to see things a little bit ahead down the road and see how horrible this would be and alert people to it.
So I want to sort of present two arguments on the other side. One of them is that it was quite, and I hear you on this. This is not an easy call. I want to be clear. I mean, I don't think it is, but you know, the AFG union, which is the largest union representing federal workers, they won a big victory today in federal court about those probationary employees who were fired. They came out against the CR, which really surprised me, right? These are the people that seem to have the most skin in the game on precisely the terms you're enunciating. And they said, the fact that this CR has no protections that will actually be followed means that we can't support it. If the people whose livelihoods are on the line say you cannot go along with this thing, why are they wrong?
I understand why they're so upset with the CR, but I disagree with them because the shutdown would be worse for their employees. They could just eliminate huge portions of government workers automatically. They could eliminate programs automatically, which they can't do on the CR. The CR has certain spending, and they can screw around with it, and they will. These guys are sons of guns. They're going to do everything they can to hurt the government. You know what they've talked about. Elon Musk, this billionaire who cares nothing about taking people's Social Security away, this guy says that he wants to cut $2 trillion out of the federal government. A shutdown would allow him to do it. And here's another point, Chris. There's no exit ramp.
No, it wouldn't.
Anyone who wants the shutdown, I've asked them, well...
No, you're making it seem like the Republicans don't... the Republicans want a shutdown. They don't.
So
this is a lie. It would be unimaginably unpopular for the Republicans to get to a shutdown without fucking getting, without conceding at any point to the Democrats.
That's even worse.
So here's the other.
The president always owns the shutdown.
Democrats don't control any part of the government. So there's not a ton of leverage. The one thing they have leverage is in the Senate, where you need a filibuster-proof majority on a cloture vote. That there's essentially an unconstitutional...
I'm going to be honest with you, Chuck Schumer knows this. This is compliance. They're complicit. They're complicit.
These guys are the worst, and we got to fight them every step of the way. As we say in Brooklyn.
But look, Russ Vought is already telling people, but he's telling people on the floor, we are not even going to listen to this CR. This is a piece of paper that we will impound and rip up the moment it's passed. If that's the case, how is voting for cloture not essentially an imprimatur on the very same assault on the constitutional order?
They're already, even without this CR, they're already doing it.
Right.
Okay? They did it to the Department of Education. But I can tell you, I've been through shutdowns before. It's not that this CR is good. It's not that voting for it is good. It's horrible. but the alternative is worse. And we have to look just a month ahead and see how bad a shutdown would be for all the things we believe in, and how I'd say Trump and Doge and Musk and Vogt, they're like drooling with happiness and desire to get a government shutdown. They've said they want it. Why? Not for doing anything good, I'll tell you that. These guys are authoritarians.
Which is why we're showing our belly to them.
The theory of the case for people that don't want Democrats to vote for cloture is that Americans don't quite understand what's being done to their government. It's being done in this sort of haphazard fashion. The stories are sort of getting out. You know, there's this Forest Service worker who got laid off for no reason, and there's this veteran who's got a traumatic brain injury, who's got a clinical trial. But the shutdown would be a way of actually calling the question. And here's what I would just offer. It seems to me that the demand that makes the most sense here, and I'm not a U.S. senator, is for the Republicans to vote on a rescission package that enunciates the cuts Doge has done, as opposed to allowing an unelected co-president unilaterally eviscerate the American constitutional power of the purse.
Well, the bottom line is the Republican Senate is in total obeisance to Trump. They're not going to oppose him in any way. But if they allow Trump to make the kind of drastic cuts that I greatly fear in a government shutdown, they'll be culpable as well. And make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. Why? Ask yourself again the question. Why does Musk and Trump and Vogt want this? Vogt already has plans on how to slash the government, far worse than slashed in the CR. Much worse. Every program, every part of government would be at their disposal, their wicked disposal. So that's the problem here. It's not that the CR is good, it's horrible. Well, and all things being equal, we should have opposed it. But the alternative being a shutdown makes things worse. And I believe this, much worse. And I believe this, I wouldn't have done this. I knew I'd get criticized. But I felt obligated for the country, for my Democratic caucus, to the people, to explain how bad a shutdown would be. And if we went into a shutdown and everything bad happened, I had to give people this warning.
Can I'm going to just keep you for two more questions, if that's okay. One is a sort of question about strategy and dealing what I think you and I and many people watching this agree is essentially an assault on the constitutional order, and that it's this.
Absolutely.
The only thing they understand is meeting conflict with conflict. So if you look at Doug Ford in Ontario, who banged the table and said, "You're going to tariff us. I'm going to tariff you. We're going to put a surcharge on electricity." That the only thing that gets their attention, the only thing that gets them to back down, is meeting conflict with conflict. If you meet conflict with essentially managed retreat or strategic non-engagement, then they roll
Chris,
all over you.
We are going to conflict with them on everything. On the tax cuts for the billionaires, they've become a plutocracy and oligarchy. On Medicaid, we have plans to conflict them with all of that. If the shutdown occurred, we wouldn't be able to do that because they would fill up both the Senate and the discussion on whether we should cut this and not cut that, of things that they want to cut. So to have the conflict on the best ground we have, summed up in a sentence, that they're making the middle class pay for tax cuts for billionaires, it's much, much better not to be in the middle of a shutdown, which would divert people from the #1 issue we have against these bastards, these people, which is not only all these cuts, but they're ruining democracy. And one other thing on a shutdown. On a shutdown, the courts could close or at least be totally disabled. And the courts are one of the best ways we've had to go after these guys.
Final question about just an issue of intercameral strategy. I mean, the Democrats voted en masse against this in the House. They lost only one vote, Jared Golden in Maine. I've seen a lot of House members, and across an ideological range, interestingly enough, urging the Senate to filibuster this, saying, look, this is existential about whether we control the power of the purse or not. We cannot essentially sign off on this Doge unilateral arrogation of this power.
Yeah, look, I supported what the House did to vote against this bill universally, but that didn't cause a shutdown. It's different in the Senate. And I knew people were going to disagree with me, but I felt so strongly that the shutdown would be the greatest disaster we face with these arrogant autocrats, that we had to avoid the shutdown and fight on many of the other things, every other issue that we have.
All right, Senator Chuck Schumer, who's the leader of the Democrats in the Senate, announcing he will be a yes for cloture tomorrow. I imagine you will have the 6 or so other votes you need to get that over the hump. Thank you, sir. Come on anytime with late-breaking news, and we can do this whenever you want.
Thank you, Chris. Nice to
Appreciate
talk
it.
with you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
I can't.
Actively hide from their own concerns.
I can't. It's unbelievable, dude. It is unfucking believable. Schumer tells me Republicans might try to jam Democrats again in September, but thinks Trump will be less popular then, and Republican appropriators might be more willing to stand up to him. He said he refused to do so now. Oh my God, he is so fucking stupid. Oh my God. Okay, for those of you who don't understand, can you explain why he's complicit? Just wanting to understand more, not debate. I will. Okay. In order for this continuing resolution to pass, to fund the government, to avert a government shutdown, the Republicans need a filibuster-proof majority. There's one way that the Democrats can stop that from happening, which is to say that they're going to filibuster it. Okay? They need 60 votes in the Senate. They already have the House majority, but they need 60 votes in the Senate. But they don't have 60 votes in the Senate. The only Democrat that has said they would vote for this ahead of time was John Fetterman. But John Fetterman gets canceled out by Rand Paul because Rand Paul said he would not vote for it. So in this process, the Democrats and whoever the minority party is, like it's sometimes Democrats, sometimes Republicans, doesn't matter. The minority party has the minority Paul, not Rand Paul, Thomas Massey. No, Rand Paul as well. I thought it was Rand Paul. Am I wrong? I'm pretty sure Rand Paul in the Senate said that he wouldn't. Didn't he say he was not going to vote for it? Yeah, and also Massey is not in the Thomas Massey in the House of Representatives already voted no. He was the singular no vote from the Republican Party. But Rand Paul in the Senate said, yeah, I was right. I don't know why Chad is trying to correct me on this. Okay. Rand Paul in the Senate said he was not going to vote for it. John Fetterman on the Republican side, John Fetterman on the Democrat side said he would vote for it. So there's still Democratic support that they need. Okay. They need more Democratic support to get to the filibuster-proof majority. Now, this is historically the only way for historically the only way for the minority party, the party not in power, to be able to force concessions from the majority party, the party in power. And the Democrats and Republicans both historically have used this, especially Republicans have used this opportunity to, edge towards a government shutdown with the hopes of getting Democrats to back down from certain things they want to pass through a CR. Okay. And they've been fairly successful in the past because no matter what happens, it's always the responsibility of whoever is in charge. It's the White House's fault in the eyes of the American population. So the American population would look to all the furloughs and all the media coverage on, the hundreds of thousands of federal government workers no longer going into work and the economic crisis that is on the verge of happening. And they would blame the party in charge, the Republicans in this regard. This is precisely the reason why the Republicans would inevitably concede on certain issues and make it seem as though, at the very least, like the Democrats are fighting back. Like give him a victory, give him a W, right? If they were to play ball. Except the Democrats right now, backed by Chuck Schumer, are waving the white flag. They initially had said for months that they would use the budget shutdown. I mean, the continued resolution as a battle and maybe even force the government to go into a shutdown if necessary to make sure that they had certain assurances. And Chuck Schumer today, up until yesterday, he was saying he was going to not vote for it, that the Republicans didn't have the votes for it. But as of today, Chuck Schumer has waved the white flag. They're going to vote for closure so that this can pass without a filibuster-proof majority, and the Republicans have the votes to pass it without a filibuster-proof majority once that happens. So that's it. That is what's going on here. They're not using the only fucking weapon they have to wield against the majority party, and they're giving it up without a single fucking fight while wearing these goddamn socks. Why the flop from Schumer? I think in the past I would have told you it's because they're cowards, but I think they're just, or that they're stupid. But I think it's because they're complicit. Like, they don't care. They like the austerity. They enjoy it. They love it. They love that it's like the Republicans doing it. They think that this will ruin the American economy. They think that this will create a lot of anger and resentment towards the Republicans. And then they can comfortably ride that anger into a narrow, marginal victory. They can farm donations for the next 3 years and then inevitably fucking win the election again. I don't even know if that's the case. I don't even know if that will happen, for the record. I don't even know if the Democrats will ever win again because goddamn, they're so fucking pathetic. Having said that, however, this is the case in front of us now. This is what's happening currently. It is insane. It is unacceptable. I don't know. They're not factoring how stupid Americans are. They're not factoring anything. Also, breaking news, American Airlines plane catches fire on Denver airport. Nice. Look at that.
Well, it doesn't look like we're flying out today now.
Don't laugh too hard. It might impact everyone.
Yeah, maybe not. Good. That was quick.
Another vid of the plane. That's fucking... I don't know what to say anymore, man. This, I feel like, is an apt analogy for where America is right now.
Yeah, so that's kind of...
This is where we're at, man. That's America, baby.
That's wild.
The great American downfall, folks.
Oh, what happened?
It's on fire.
I like that. Oh, what happened?
It's on fire.
Damn, this guy's good.